To blamestorming. Blamestorming. In a post-truth world, there's plenty of blame to go around. 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 Join Dave Cyrus and Marissa Smith as they blamestorm about today's hot topics.
Hey guys, this is Blamestorming. I'm Marissa Smith. I've got Dave Cyrus with me.
Hi, I'm Dave.
I've got Maddie Smith with me.
Hey, what's up?
And I've got Chris Crispo with me.
Hey, everybody, I'm here.
So, Dave, how was your week?
Good. I'll bet that announcer's name is Nigel.
It's possible.
He seems like a Nigel. I was fine. I was in L.A. Hey, everybody.
Yeah? How was L.A.?
It was great. That's where all my friends are. No offense, guys.
That's cool.
I never assumed that we were friends.
I mean, it's a relationship of convenience. But, yeah, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Introduce people. I'm sorry. We should wait.
You were not paying attention because I had introduced people, but I will ask people how their weeks are going.
Yeah.
So, Maddie, how's your week going?
It's great. Yeah, nothing crazy. Just chilling, tired all the time. You know, the usual.
Just living life.
Being a woman in New York is exhausting.
Yeah, being alive at this point is exhausting.
Getting
totally.
catcalled every day.
So much catcalling.
all those
that's the best part.
All those Italian men at the construction
Oh,
sites.
yeah, baby.
Wanna
Men and women now.
Want to describe the things they're going to do to you in
Oh,
detail.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring you home and ask you to marry me in a nice way and let you have my mom's sauce.
Yeah.
I'll ask your father's permission first.
Oh, get him away.
If you're not from New York, that is uncannily accurate.
Chris, how was your week?
Okay. I've just been practicing just stuff that, new material and stuff like that.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
all I've been doing.
He's a stand-up comedian.
We're all
we're-
Yeah.
Oh my
comics.
God.
We're all comics. Yeah, we are all comics. That is why we're all here today to blamestorm.
Yeah.
So now, you guys, have any of you watched this Roseanne reboot?
Haven't yet. It's on my list of things to maybe probably never do, but I've heard it. You guys?
I watched it today because we're going to talk about it, and I wasn't going to. And the thing is, I watched the original show, and it is... I mean, it does seem like the original show. It's not like one of these like reboots where it's like, this is unrecognizable.
Fuller House
the
was
character.
like, what's happening?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Well, I mean, that's also because you were too young to know how horrible the original Full House was. Like, the original Full House was also an abomination,
Yeah, but
as the new one was. But
Yeah.
you're right, it's
I
worse.
only
Yeah,
watched
yeah.
it for Uncle Jesse.
That's fair. But then, I mean, we could talk about the new Full House as long as we want.
We don't have to.
Because it was,
Yeah.
it was an
No.
atrocity.
yeah, it was really bad. Those tits, though.
Who's?
Stephanie's. She got big tits.
Oh, yeah, well, she had
Yeah.
implants.
I know. Yeah, duh.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I mean, implants I'm not impressed with.
Oh.
It's like a corked bat, as they say.
Oh, I'll take it.
But no, but I saw the new Roseanne, and I'm prepared to be really angry about that for a while. If you guys want to get into that, because
Yeah.
while the show seems the same, the character of Roseanne, if I were examining this as fiction, had a stroke. And has
Well, I feel like the real Roseanne had a stroke. Like, didn't she like move to like Hawaii and opened up like a macadamia farm? And
that's
like,
one of the things she did. Yes.
And then she just like kind of dropped off the grid for like 5 to 8 years, and now all of a sudden she's just like this like
Oh God.
pro-Trump like propaganda
well,
machine.
she fell off the grid if you weren't looking. Because she was on the grid, if you were like me, and 5 years ago, remember when she put out a manifesto where she said, among other things, that Barack Obama is blackmailing Congress, Barack Obama is orchestrating school shootings to take away our guns, Barack Obama is being blackmailed by all the male prostitutes he frequents, and was born in Kenya.
Which one of those is wrong?
And that's where things start. You get that little negative attention for saying something provocative, and pretty soon you're just wearing MAGA hats and saying, this is me now.
Yeah.
So I just think it's incredibly hypocritical of Roseanne to insist that the Roseanne character share her love of Trump, but not her pronounced mental illness. Because that's why she believes these things.
Yeah, she's supposed to be like a level-headed supporter of Trump,
Yeah.
right?
There
But-
are no
right.
level-headed supporters of Trump.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no.
why it's
My
bizarre.
mom is.
Yeah.
There are
mom
some
is crazy.
gullible people
Is
who
she?
just believe in him.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
your mom supports Trump?
Yeah, my mom, but not just my mom. Like everybody in my family voted for Trump.
Yeah, but
Really?
Yeah.
So like
Did-
how was Thanksgiving?
yeah.
I don't know. It's awkward because it's still Thanksgiving and I'm there.
So they must hate that you're a teacher.
What?
I mean, if they...
Yeah, they must hate that you're gay.
You vote for fucking Green once, and it's like, God damn it. God
Yeah.
damn it.
Green once, gay forever.
But isn't Roseanne on the show? Isn't she like only a Trump voter, but then everything else she's liberal on?
Well, this is what pisses me off more than anything. So it basically seems like her plan making this show was, I'm going to... What she's doing is exactly what we think it is. Normalize being a Trump fan.
Right.
Because remember, she's a Trump fan for the same reason that she thinks Hillary Clinton's a mass murderer. There's something wrong with her. There's something extremely dangerously gullible about her lately. And she makes the show liberal in the way of saying, see, I'm not just a Trump supporter. I'm saying that even if you care about black people and gay kids and transgender people, you should still support Trump even though he fucking hates those people. That's why
Yeah.
her grandkids are a black child and what is ostensibly a transgender child.
Yeah.
Because that way she can say, see, I'm not the hateful person that you probably assume I am because I support someone who hates these people that live
Yeah.
in my house.
Right.
So that's why she can say, well, I love Trump and I think I trust him, but I also love my transgender grandson who he wants to ban from getting jobs.
Right.
And I'm not racist. Look, I have a black grandson or granddaughter. I couldn't tell. I have a black
Are they
grandchild.
trans too?
No, they have a black grandchild, and that's why it's okay that I then attack Colin Kaepernick on the show and support people who
They did
want
all of those in one episode?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
The
It is a
writers' room
lot.
must have
They're like,
been a mess.
what else can we? Oh my God, school shootings.
And what's disgusting about it is, look, Roseanne believes this because she's mentally ill. That's honestly what I believe, because she's acknowledged being mentally ill, and she's not a regular Trump supporter. She's someone who believes in fucking Pizzagate. She believes that
Yeah.
there is a worldwide child prostitution ring going on in the White House, in Congress. She's fucking crazy.
But can we get a dollar slice? That's the most important question.
can.
It cost
You
us some
can.
hot kids.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, then.
they only have dollar slices here. They don't have those in D.C.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I'm sure Comet Ping Pong was like probably more expensive. But here's what really makes me like honestly fucking furious about this. This is what happened with Will and Grace too. They had the reboot. They made one of the main characters a Trump supporter
Right.
because then they can have this controversy of people wanting to tune in to listen to it.
True.
But to watch it. But what that does is the exact same thing the news media did when Trump was running for president.
Yeah.
They're using this negative attention to get eyeballs, not caring that it normalizes the hate speech that they're trying to use to get people's attention with. And it creates this weird snake eating itself that's become our culture.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
that's
also-
why, go on.
Oh, okay. They also have to, like, when you sit in like a producer's room, they're probably like, how do we appeal to both sides?
Yeah, because we need every
This would be-
dollar
yeah,
we can get.
Totally.
Like
So-
I kind of came to like all of these conclusions and without watching one episode, and I won't watch any of it. Like I actually used to watch Roseanne when I was younger, but like I was too young to understand her or understand the show or like how fucking weird she was or anything like that. But like I don't. How do you possibly think that like? Because she has like a black grandkid that like she's not racist. It's just kind of like really ridiculous thinking. Like, I mean, I dated a guy who I believe is now a neo-Nazi. Like, you know, like I saw him on Instagram and he's dressed like an extra from A Clockwork Orange.
Ooh.
Yeah, but he probably wouldn't have hated black people if you hadn't dated.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean,
Oh
I
my
might have
God.
told him I thought he was gay a few times, but you know,
It's like, I'm not gay.
it's like, why are you spanking to your best friend's picture?
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
Natural reaction then.
Oh.
After breaking up.
it's
Going to be a Nazi.
yeah, you know,
It's not that gay.
The show seems like the whole point of it is to normalize being a not just Trump supporter, but like her, a fucking crazy
Yeah.
conspiracy theorist Trump supporter. Because first of all, on the show they have Jackie as the Hillary supporter, sort of. Because Jackie is this caricature of people who support Hillary because they won't let her actually have good points for
Right.
why she hates Trump, because that would impugn the whole point of the show, which is to champion being a Trump supporter like the Connors are on the show. But she also voted for Jill Stein. That's the whole thing about it. They had the
Oh, no.
because it's not what's more important than supporting Trump is just
Russian
reinforcing the
propaganda?
hatred of Hillary.
Right.
But yeah, Russian propaganda, because
Totally.
Roseanne, like almost everyone who believed those propaganda articles, they would rather live in the world where they're true than have to acknowledge that they were fooled. So they would rather destroy the whole goddamn country than just live in the world where they were this gullible and they made a mistake. And look, like I said, Roseanne believes that all of Congress knows that children are being brought into, like, you know, if just for a second, if they were systematically having sex with children for money in Congress, do you really think they would do it in the building?
No.
You don't think they would have a little more wherewithal to go to a separate place like a pizza? Oh my God.
Oh.
This is how these things.
You're supposed to be diffusing this, Dave.
No, I mean, it just really makes me sick to watch the way that they're trying to say that Trump support is now, it's just like every other political
Right.
campaign.
I thought that's something we really like. Okay, so like a little bit after the election, everyone was like, let's try to understand them. There was all these think pieces about like, here's what you don't get about middle America. Then all sorts of shit went down within the last like year. And we're all just like, no, we have no sympathy for that side anymore. Too much shit has come out.
Yeah.
So now that Roseanne's like, okay, well, it's a little bit fucking late, right?
Everything we were called reactionary for believing Trump would
Right.
be like,
Yeah.
he's been like.
He's filled all the boxes.
He has been
Yeah.
a complete lunatic.
Yeah.
I was upset when he won because I thought, oh, you know what's going to happen now? They're going to keep him under wraps.
Yeah.
He's going to do all these things that the neocons
Yeah.
always wanted.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have this mentally ill idiot
Yeah.
in charge. But now, like, oh, no,
He's-
they couldn't even do
yeah,
that. They
he's
couldn't even keep a lid on him.
Incredibly untethered.
And now he's more untethered than ever. That's
Yeah.
why he got rid of John Kelly,
Yeah.
because he felt like he wasn't getting enough control.
Right.
Because he's a child who can't deal with this job.
Oh, yeah.
And it's coming more and more apparent he would rather the world stop existing than him not be in charge of it.
Right. So for Roseanne to come out now, I mean, maybe if it came out like a year and a half ago.
Maybe.
There would be less.
A little in
There'd be
the-
more of an argument to make that we're being reactionary.
Yeah.
But for her at this point to say I love trans kids and I'm against racism and I love Donald Trump comes off
Pandering.
incredibly
Yeah.
hypocritical.
After
Yeah.
Charlottesville, after all this fucking.
And
no.
then she like, you know, there was photos. She did this photo shoot as Hitler, like baking like burnt Jew cookies.
That
like-
didn't bother me.
That
As the
bothered me.
As the only Jew here, I
Dave
had no
saved
problem
it.
with that.
Yeah. Well,
gotta be
just because we didn't do this part of the show that we always
Were
do.
they
So, like for
chocolate chip?
the people that are listening, Dave is Jewish, you guys.
They can probably tell that from my voice. What they
You
can't
always
tell is
think
that
that.
you're black.
Well, now we've got it covered. There you go.
I just need
I am
people.
too.
I need people to know. As you can tell by Maddie's voice, she is absolutely
well, we're
the
both
whitest
Smiths,
person.
so we're sisters. There you go.
Oh,
Maddie
God.
looks like a really well-made butter sculpture.
Oh, thank you. Honored.
You look, Maddie. If you're picturing Maddie, is what I assume every Wisconsin beauty queen looks like.
Oh, yeah, I'm like a fucking 12 out of 10 there. I
Yeah.
go there and like dudes just start jacking off. They're like, she's so pretty.
And Chris is Cuban.
Yeah.
So we really hit
Yeah.
our bases today.
Totally normal guy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
Hola.
Nothing wrong.
Okay, but now we have to say it because we're going to confuse the people.
He has no
listening.
legs.
Oh, God damn it,
Sorry.
Maddie.
No, he does have legs.
We
They
reeled them
just
in.
don't look like human legs.
Yeah,
That's not,
No.
exactly.
No, yeah. Chris is
A human T-Rex.
Yes.
Chris is Chris.
I've had an X-ray of me from the chest up,
Yeah.
and it is the funniest thing
Yo.
ever.
Well, I should so we our audience understands.
It looks like cooked pasta.
Chris's mother did not respond to a chain letter while pregnant, so now
She was like, what do I, AOL? I don't even know what this is.
so Chris is.
It was 88.
Yeah.
So Chris is
Yeah.
a little
Oh, what?
disabled. That's
Oh,
just-
shit.
But
Yeah.
that's that. And if you watch his roast battles, you can see people laughing about that.
Yeah.
Both for and against you, though.
Oh yeah,
It's great.
it's
Yes.
fun.
Which, by the way, I did want to, just because we brought it up, we also mentioned that you, of course, are a teacher.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if we're
Sub.
allowed to say that.
Yeah,
but
I'm
we
a
won't say
sub.
where.
Yeah.
But so actually, this is something we could bring up, the whole idea of, they want to give guns to teachers. You probably have a unique perspective about that. Would you want
Finally have the right to bear arms.
Would you
I
want to have to
know,
carry?
right, Maddie?
Would you want to have to figure out a way of somehow carrying a gun if the school board wanted teachers to have guns?
If it were me, right? Like if it was just, all right, give Crossbow a gun. He's the teacher in some classroom. I would be terrible with a handgun, and so a handgun would be useless for me. I'm actually better with a rifle.
Have you shot a rifle before?
Yes, I have.
Wait.
That's terrifying.
Okay.
Yes, I have. I've shot a rifle. The first gun I ever fired was a Colt M1911, the ones that were standard issue when you were in the military at the time, and I couldn't handle that because
Because you don't have hands.
Yes, and I dropped it.
They should not have let you do this.
Yeah.
I was at a shooting range. I paid $100.
And
I'm
the
not
guy
gonna
there was
leave.
like, well, I'll take anybody.
They
fuck
should
it.
not have accepted your money.
They
In fact, they should. If anything, they should have let you shoot the gun for free.
I know, but I had
And
to pay
live
for the
streamed it.
bullets. Yes.
Would have paid for itself. I'm sorry.
I literally, but I did better with the rifles than I did with the handgun. I didn't need assistance with the rifles.
Okay.
So I had
Because
to
you can
start-
use both arms to kind of balance it.
Yeah, and then plus I could use my shoulder to balance the weight.
Oh,
The
yeah.
problem was that the rifle that I'm really good at is the AR-15.
That's a bad one.
Hey, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with using an AR-15 at a gun range.
They're never
I
gonna
have
give
no-
me that.
Yeah.
I have-
Never. But it was. But I don't know. I think that giving teachers guns is not an appropriate. I don't feel like it's appropriate, but at the same time, like I believe in the Second Amendment, so it's like I don't think that's not gonna solve a problem, especially in the educational field. Like you have to. When I was going for my master's on this, they say like you have to make a very clear, safe educational environment for the students, and having a weapon in the classroom, it's already, even if it's locked, there's tension. So if anything goes wrong, and I've been in rooms where you deal with teenagers and little kids. With little kids, it's like it's okay, but when you're dealing with a teenager, let's say in a lower income school district where they're not going to have any money, everybody's like literally taking whatever's on the wall, it could be a problem. It could literally be a problem.
And I don't think it could even be locked away. If we're really talking about
yeah.
having this for school
Well,
shooting,
You have to put
Being
it in your
able to
holster.
react.
you need to be
Yeah.
ready.
That's ridiculous.
Right, because you never know when a shooting is going to break out.
You need a 1,000-yard stare as you're like teaching math.
Yeah.
But that's ridiculous because you can't just go from teaching math to Rambo like that. You
Yeah.
have to first you have to put the kids in a safe place where if you go to like the thing about a school shooting drill, it's called a lockdown drill. You go into the closet. If for little kids they go to the closet and then you're supposed to shut the door in the closet, and the kids still giggle and have all shits and giggles in there because they think it's a drill. I can just imagine having the real thing happen, and then it's just this chaos in the room. And then on top of that, you have to sort of take defense positions in a classroom, which in and of itself is just a square room. And you have to basically make a defense for yourself with the desks that are made out of wood and plastic. And you have to sort of make a little thing so in case
Everyone
the
would
guys
have
start
died
shooting.
by now.
Yeah,
Is
Yeah.
what we're saying.
Yeah.
it's
Like
ridiculous.
you can't make a sniper's nest in home ec class.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like there's
Yes.
no way. I mean, maybe you could defend yourself in shop class, but what's a 4-year-old gonna do with a hammer?
Well, in Pennsylvania, they're giving the kids rocks.
I saw something about that.
Which
Rick
is like,
Santorum is an idiot. He doesn't
that-
know what he's talking about. And
was that Rick Santorum's idea?
yes,
Are you
he's
sure?
retarded.
That was Rick Santorum?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
On CNN, and then he was no, he was doing.
He was
CPR.
the one who said, I was going to say, he was the one who says CPR.
But CPR doesn't do shit.
it was the Philadelphia
You
guy.
need in order to stop a gunshot wound for that type of rifle, you need there's this thing in the military where it's a tube and there's cotton inside, and you're supposed to put it in the gunshot wound and inject the cotton in. It's supposed to.
It sounds like a tampon.
well,
Yeah.
it's like a tampon.
Yeah, the
it's a
men are
gigantic
like, this is
tampon.
genius.
This is just like, oh, it's a tube and there's cotton. It's like, oh, a tampon.
Oh, that's a
Like,
pearl.
I would like to see, I would like to
put-
see which school shooting victim's life would have been saved by mouth to mouth, because that doesn't
Yo.
really apply when there's
Yeah.
already holes in you.
Yeah, you're about to blow out some blood.
No, you would need like a medevac helicopter.
Yeah.
If
And you also need to stop the bleeding
Well, look,
really fast.
Rick Santorum and the guy, I mean, I don't know about the guy with the rocks, because I almost thought that guy was kidding as a way of mocking.
Yeah, me too.
But I heard he
Pennsylvanians
really
are
does want
retarded.
buckets
That
of
sounds
rocks.
like an
yeah,
Onion
no,
article.
because it's just like, if there's a will, there's a way. If you throw a rock, you're gonna stop a shooter.
I don't think we should be mocking this guy, because it's a better idea than giving the teachers guns.
Well, giving me a
I
gun
say
would
mock
not
the
work,
guy and
but-
fuck the guns at the
want,
same time.
Honestly, Chris, I want you to have a gun exactly as much as I want all the other teachers to
Yeah,
have
you're
guns.
you're just like one of them.
Yeah.
kind of.
Thanks, Maddie.
It's just, it really is. I
No,
mean,
but
I hate the idea,
I
because
just-
I think when you give teachers guns, you solve the problem of where does a school shooter get the gun to begin with.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's
You
not
Walk
gonna-
up behind
yeah.
the
So-
teacher, hit him with one of the
Yeah.
rocks in the corner, and take
The
his gun.
rocks, the
Now,
rocks.
now, Chris, if they were to give you like an extra bonus, like in your salary for
They'll never give me a bonus.
Yeah.
Teachers never get bonuses.
Well,
You
this
guys
is
get
their
paid,
their
like,
That's
for
already-
their
that's
for the
already-
shooting bonus. Like they're talking about a shooter's bonus. So like if you're a teacher and you agree that you'll take shooting lessons, they're going to give them bonuses.
Oh my
Whoa.
God.
So if
Interesting.
you were if you had the opportunity to take the shooter bonus,
Mhm.
like and you know with the understanding that if your school was to be attacked, that you know you would bear arms, like would you be interested in doing that? I mean, you've done
Yeah.
some sort of shooting, so I mean, you're kind of
Yeah.
halfway there.
Yeah and no. You also have to know where the attack is coming from because location is everything. So if you're with a gun and the shooting's in the hallway, you're not going to go out in the hallway in an open field and open fire.
Yeah, but would you take the lessons if it gave you a bonus?
I mean, I would take the lessons for I would
Yeah.
do anything for a bonus,
Especially
man.
I know
because-
he's a teacher.
Well, teachers are getting paid less and less anyway. They're not going to be
Yeah.
able to write off their
You want me to
supplies.
take a
They're gonna
bullet
have
for
to take
25
Yeah.
grand? No.
Yeah, they're going to have to take these lessons because teachers are getting paid less. And it reminds me of the same reason why after AIDS started existing, they stopped paying homeless people for blood. Because it meant you got the wrong blood. Just like you
Yeah.
shouldn't have people guarding schools who are doing it just because they desperately need the money.
Yeah.
Well, that
Right.
was another thing.
He should only give blood for the cookies.
Wait, you have a thing about
Yes.
blood with
no,
AIDS?
Fake Newtons.
No. It's weird because it's like if you give, you also have to understand like the person that you're arming as well. Like my brother is also he's a security guard at some club.
Do
And
you
he
guys
would-
look alike?
No,
Okay.
they're not. But he talks about how like he has retired cops with him as coworkers.
Okay, yeah.
And they don't do shit whenever
Mm.
there's a fight going on. He's always the
Oh.
one that has to break up the fight,
Hmm.
and they're just like, "Yeah, we need backup." So
Well, that
you
sounds
don't
like
want
Parkland all over again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
right?
you don't want a guy that's like Howard with a gun waiting in some corner and then going, "Oh, you came. All right, so then I'll go and I'll take the back." You know, you don't want that guy. But at the same time, it's like if somebody doesn't know what they're doing in a situation like that, because that's like almost like that's SWAT training in a weird way to clear a room, to take control of the situation. That's what you train SWAT people to do.
When you think about, just think about, the last teacher you had in high school that, you
He would-
remembered.
no.
And just picture that guy getting military training with a gun. Like, these are
Insane.
already people I didn't trust. I didn't trust these people with my report card,
Yeah.
with our futures. And
Mm.
yeah, we're trying to we're just watching people try to shoehorn an argument that lets them keep every gun they want.
I would
Yeah.
have totally trusted Sister
I don't-
JB with a gun, though.
I don't
'cause,
mind-
like, she was on top of everything.
I don't mind people with guns. I just mind the fact that whenever there's a mass shooting, everybody thinks it's an okay idea to arm teachers. I'm like, all right, the armed police officers in the building, that's fine. Granted, we had a coward in that one in the Parkland that just waited for thing to happen, but that's the right response for that.
Yeah, to have trained people whose job it is
Police
to protect
officers are
people, yeah.
trained to go into situations and protect people. That's okay.
Yeah, I don't
You
think
can-
anyone's against just having more
but,
cops in school.
Yeah, but the problem is that now we have a situation where that's normal. Where when we were growing up, that wasn't normal. When I was growing up, I barely saw a cop in grammar school. Now I
Yeah,
see a
you'd
cop
see him
everywhere.
and be like, uh-oh.
Yeah, you would see them because a kid got in trouble or brought a knife to school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you would never see them in the hallways like I normally do when I go to work.
Right.
And now we see, just like now at every airport, there's guys walking around with M16s and flak jackets, and that would have been weird before. And
Yeah.
now it's like we feel better that they're there.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is why have we not gotten to the point where something, we need armed people at the movie theater, or
No.
we need armed people at concerts. It's just literally we're acting like the shootings only happen at schools, so we need to arm teachers, but then there's shootings in other places and we're just oh well, people just get shot at concerts, that's okay.
But the thing is that we're not looking at where violence when people look at a mass shooting, right? They're not looking at the culprit. Let's take Parkland for example, because that's the most recent. The guy had
It's not, but
well,
but go
no,
on. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
There's been 70 since.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm just saying now.
Yeah.
Okay, the guy had mental issues, was reported numerous times, and then he was just left to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
And the problem is we're not talking about like how the system failed him that led to that point.
Oh, the system failed him, but also you talk to the kids who knew him, they all said he was a fucking lunatic. They all said he was dangerous. And the thing is, you're right. They did
there's
report him.
But
what do you do?
The school has to provide services, mental health issues for that. But on top of that, it's like there are no mental health services for that because we keep cutting that.
And you're right.
And then on top of that, when we have these problems, it's like, oh well, let's take away the gun. But the gun was the last problem.
The last stage of this issue.
It built up to this point where there was no way out for this guy.
This
was the only way out for this guy.
This kid, like a lot of people, I think there was a way out. You could have been a loser. You could have just been a guy who's not happy, or you know what? You could have done what normal people did in the situation up until recently, and just kill yourself.
Yeah.
Just take yourself out of the equation and not take people with you
But then
like
you'd
a
have another
selfish bitch.
suicide. Then you have another suicide statistics with guns on
I'll
top
take
of
a
that.
suicide
I'm okay
over
with that. Yeah.
That's true.
shooting, yeah.
I consider that negligible. But what
Yeah.
I'm saying about this kid is when people say we needed to report people and that they needed to take the report seriously, they're correct. But the thing is, what do you do when someone's reported for being crazy? You can't just lock them up because people say, I think he's going to be a killer. The one thing they should be able to do is not let him have a gun, which was not the situation, wasn't the law.
Well, the FBI failed twice to get that guy.
But what
Yeah,
could
but
they
he
have
was
done?
also able to get a gun.
well,
Legally.
in
Yeah.
Florida, it's ridiculously easy to get a gun.
Yeah, that's
also
why we
in
should
Pennsylvania
regulate them more.
and
But
This-
this kid didn't do anything that the FBI had a legal right to
Yeah, he made
detain
like
him
one
for.
That's
YouTube
true.
comment and had a creepy Instagram. Then
Right.
what? We're all gonna go after every creepy Instagram kid? Like
That's
that's
true.
a million
That's
people.
the thing. We
But
can't
if
really
it's-
do
the
anything.
FBI
But
time.
if he was violent in the school, if there was a violent incident in the school, then the state has to take control of that.
Yeah,
The
but he wasn't
problem
even a
is-
student anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, he was kicked out. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't like the problem with that is you can't just say the school when a school puts someone out of district, that basically means they don't want this kid anymore for X amount of reasons. We're having problem. There's a kid in one of my schools that I work in that he's violent. He'll kick you and punch you, but he's 6 years old.
What's his full name?
I'm not going to disclose that. But the problem is
You'll hear
that
from him soon.
the problem is that they want to move him out of district, and the problem is that when you do that, you're basically washing your hands of this kid's problems, and that's what every school does when they have a child that's violent. Granted, this kid is 6 years old, but if he was 16,
yeah.
he would be arrested. He'd have charges on him. He'd have all these things, and this is the state of New Jersey. So again, like the problems are more along the lines of like what it's reform when it comes to like mental health and educational systems, but at the same time, when you're talking about like gun ownership in a national level, different states have different laws. It's extremely hard for me to get a gun in my home state of New Jersey and in New York, but it's extremely easy. If I lived in Pennsylvania, all I need is a driver's license to get a gun,
It's insane.
and I can get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm amazed that they let you drive.
Yeah, I drive.
Yeah.
No offense. And you drive very well. I just didn't know the logistics of it. But
Right. It's good to see for the first time.
Yeah.
You know?
But no, I mean, you're right. We do have this big problem with mental health. And the thing is, when people who are really trying to protect guns talk about mental health, what it sounds like they mean is locking up everyone that anyone has called crazy because they
Yeah.
don't want to take away their ability to own these guns. Because their whole argument is, it's the Bill of Rights. Mentally ill people have a right to the.
Now you're playing with fire because now you're dealing with mental disability, and
Right.
disability is protected by the ADA.
And we need the
And-
right to take guns away from people
Oh.
who have any.
This is a hornet's
serious
nest that I've had to talk.
And I want to
people have
kick
been
it.
asking me.
I want to kick this
Oh,
nest because
God.
the people who are trying to defend the rights of people who are mentally ill to own guns are fucking children.
It depends. Not all mentally disabled people are violent, but at the same time, I understand the argument. Like somebody that is mentally unstable that isn't violent. If somebody is mentally disabled, right, and has a history of schizophrenia and they're taking medication and they're normalized, that's one thing. But when you're talking about somebody who has a history of violence, that's another.
Well,
The problem is
I'm
when
gonna kind of like hit this hornet's nest a little bit more, and I'm gonna ask the two of you being the and the two of you being Chris and Dave being the penis owners in the room.
Huh?
Thank you.
Yo.
Like, why is this such a male problem, and why do men feel the need to become mass shooters? And I'm going to say this because
I think a
women
lot of it.
have historically had a hard time in high school, a hard time in college. You've never seen like a sorority girl that like got roofied at a party and then had a train run on her and then just decide to shoot up a cafeteria. Like, that just doesn't happen. They
Yeah,
become strippers like normal fucking people.
Yeah, I've never craved
Like,
weapons.
I've never
Yeah.
like if bad things have happened to me, I've never said to myself, you know something, I feel like shooting up a school. Like, that has never been a thought that has ever entered my head. But like, it seems like, and to be honest, I think that the first mass school shooting, maybe in the 70s, I can't remember her name.
I think it was past 81 was the first.
Yeah, I think it was like
82.
in the first one ever. I think it was, might have been like 77, 76. That was a woman. And then like subsequently, like every other mass school shooting has been male. And
It's fetishism. I think it's about the sexual. There's obviously something sexual
Yeah.
about gun ownership, about shooting a gun. It's your dick. Everyone. I mean, we all know this, right? It's
Yeah.
your dick. It's your your big, powerful steel dick that you're shooting things into. I mean, that's where when people talk about this need for guns, they're always afraid of just saying,
so like
I
the
just
bullets
like
or the
them.
jizz.
yeah.
But,
Yes, of course.
I
Of course they are. Not all the time,
No,
but that's a
but-
big part of why
I mean,
men
a
love
knifing
gun
I
things.
can understand because
knife-
like a knife I can be like, okay, like that's your steel dick and you're putting it inside of someone.
well,
But like a gun, it's just like the gun itself is not causing the harm; it's the bullets.
I think men
Well-
have more of a desire for that kind of raw power.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're I saw that there was a documentary on the making of He-Man, the toys, and they talked about they got the idea from just watching little boys play, and they were obsessed with power. And the way little boys play, it's all about hierarchies and creating authority and telling people what to do. And that's why He-Man picks up his big sword and yells, "I have the power." It's an extension of that. About this, we're a predatory species. We were created. Men are bigger than women because we fought over them. Because human beings fought each other for women, and that's what makes that's when a species has a larger male than female. That's why we have, that's why we have certain like genetic things where like there's more male. Like we used to like a lot of people came from the same male because they were harems, and the biggest guy would get to have sex with all the women. That's like sort of old primate logic.
Genghis Khan.
Yeah, that too. Then
yeah,
much
well,
later,
Genghis Khan was a
he
fucking
he
beast.
sexed a lot of ladies.
Well,
What
yeah.
what do you mean by sex? Like
not consensually.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
It was.
No,
yeah,
not
you're
Right.
not at all. Not at
Dave's
all.
version of sex.
Yes.
yeah.
He was so romantic.
Yeah, Genghis, we're all a little Genghisy.
Yeah, but Genghis had a fetish for power.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Definitely.
That Mongolian bow, though, that was some shit.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were the ones who figured out you could use your thumb instead of your two forefingers.
And they rode on horseback and fired the bow. Which
no,
was,
they were extremely efficient army.
I used to watch Deadliest Warriors, and I love that show, and it was
Me too.
like, oh my god,
No, yeah, I liked it
miss
too.
that show. I
No,
miss.
I don't know
that
why they
show.
stopped having that show. It was really good.
Yeah.
But no, what we're saying is like I think that it's a very basic thing that like people who love guns always try to make excuses for why it's about like values and protection.
Yeah.
But it's just you just like
Well-
it.
Yeah.
You just love the feeling of power that you could kill something over there by hitting your finger and this thing that kind of resembles your dick, shoot something that kind of resembles your jizz, and then it can
Metal
penetrate people.
jizz.
It will penetrate people, and it's like I mean I remember reading a story about a cop who couldn't get his dick up for a prostitute, so he shot her.
What?
Like many years ago,
Really?
it was a
Yeah.
very
and then it
story.
came all over her face.
And you can't
Oh.
help but just be like, that's where we were seeing the rawest of emotions out of this
Whoa,
guy.
that's
That it was like,
crazy.
well, I can't do one. And I think that, like, look, I'm not saying I want to repeal the Second Amendment, but the problem is people who say they're supporting the Second Amendment are very dishonest about what it actually is.
Well-
because if you say you cannot have restrictions on which weapons, you're saying you have the right to nuclear weapons because this is the right to bear arms. You're
well,
supposed
that's
to be
a
competitive
little.
with
that's,
the military.
That's much for me, and in my opinion, like, first off, with values is like we do have not here, but in the Midwest and other places, there are hunting. People do go out hunting. Another thing too is that you people kind of need guns to protect themselves in places that are not in an urban environment.
Also urban.
Well,
If
yes. If you want to do it, okay.
Really, really poor.
Yes.
Guns are a huge thing.
Yes, but also people have to also understand that there are certain that you have to have the right to protect yourself. A pistol is fine. A .22 is fine, or a Colt M1911, which I fired, a .45 caliber is fine. But like, do you need a Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum? No. Do you need a shotgun? It depends. If
Well,
you're
shotguns aren't the big problem.
if you were to take a shotgun, a pump action shotgun, and go to a school, right, you would kill more people than an AR-15. The thing about an AR-15 is that it's heavy, especially when it's fully loaded. A pump action shotgun, you load that up, it's not as heavy as an AR-15. Plus, when you open fire with a shotgun, you don't need to aim because it's just little pellets that fire out. And that will kill a lot
but you're
more
gonna have
people.
but you're gonna have max 2 shots before you need to reload.
A pump action, you can get 6.
Okay.
So you could do some serious damage. And if you had an AA-12, which is a military grade pump action shotgun, you don't need to pump, and you don't even the recoil on that is very, very weak.
Here it's at the same time though. Every time I've played a shooting game, the shotgun sucks.
The shotgun
You
is zero
always
range.
lose holding the shotgun.
Well, that's why you go into an environment. If you're going to use a shotgun to kill someone, you would go into an environment, crowd them together in a corner, and then open fire. That way, they're not going to go anywhere. And if they did,
like a school or a theater. Okay.
Yep. But
Well-
again, an AR-15 is too heavy. That's why only 17 people died. Which, it's the kid wasn't able to be a good marksman. You need to be able to have the strength to hold that weapon up.
Well, I mean,
Otherwise,
Adam Lanza looked like an absolute. He looked like the weakest human being alive.
Yeah,
and
right?
he was
Yeah.
able
But
to
he was
somehow.
also killing like 4-year-olds.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he was doing it with an AR-15.
yeah,
He was doing it
but
with a
also
heavy
when you
weapon.
go to a kindergarten class, if you're talking about Sandy Hook, when you go to a kindergarten or a small elementary school, pre-K and kindergarten are usually in the first floor, and if you lock them in, you're pretty much the classrooms are interconnected because they need to share the bathrooms,
Yeah.
and so that is much more tragic than because it's 4-year-olds lined up.
But
And they
like,
don't know
why
what to
don't you
do.
think that anything changed after Sandy Hook when we
Nothing
were
changed.
looking at like 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds?
We weren't looking. There wasn't. You couldn't release those images.
Nothing changed
No-
for a reason.
No,
it
but,
didn't
like-
change because there's an industry out there to confuse people about what reality is. That's why there were so many people. See, the people who invented the idea that the Sandy Hook kids weren't really killed, those people know they were killed. Those are the people
Yeah.
who think we need to confuse the simple out of actually looking at this objectively. And that's why they get millions of people to believe that these are just made up things.
Yep.
No one died. Everything's fine. You live in you live in the Matrix, and everything you don't want to think exists doesn't exist. And that's why Sandy Hook meant nothing. And that's why people are saying that the kids from Parkland are not real. That
Right.
they're 30-year-old actors pretending to be students because they're that fucking desperate for ways to change the conversation.
But I feel like with the Sandy Hook thing that like we as a nation, as human beings, as individuals, that we should have like even if we couldn't see the photo, just conceptualized being a parent of a 4 and 5-year-old that was shot down dead and said, something like this has to change. But like it seems like these Parkland kids are definitely able to push the conversation in a way that the parents of the Sandy Hook kids could not.
Well,
Social media has been pretty huge.
that's because the
But social
Parkland-
media existed when Sandy
Yes,
Hook
but
I know,
happened.
but not this intensely.
5-year-olds don't have the wherewithal to
Yeah.
become voices for this. What we're seeing with
But
Parkland.
the parents could have.
Yeah, but the
That's-
parents
Yeah.
aren't going to because with
They're
Parkland,
grieving.
Parkland specifically, because the parents are not the people who are going to do this. The people who were survivors are going to do it because we found that we can actually harness the narcissism of 17-year-olds
Yeah.
for something positive,
It's a very
which is
hot
what this
time.
is.
Very hot time for young kids on the internet.
Oh,
and that's what
yeah.
they're doing. And we've had women's marches that have been huge. So they were like, let's replicate that and do that with another issue.
The problem that I have, in a weird way, is that I feel like we're ignoring the mental health part of it. Like, okay, we want to take the guns that are, assault rifles out of the market, but you do that, you could still kill more people with a pump action shotgun and a pistol. You get 2 pistols and a pump action shotgun and maybe a hunting rifle.
It's kind of incremental. It's kind of like, do you
those
want to
are
get
still protected under the
Yeah.
law,
But saying
and
that
you
to
are
me,
able to buy
it's
that.
like when Roseanne says, "Well, if you get rid of Trump, you have Pence."
Right.
Okay, well, that'll be the next thing we deal
Yeah.
with then, won't
Yeah,
it?
but
I think it's
let's
one
get that
thing,
done first.
Definitely one thing at a time.
But I feel like the fact that we're ignoring, in a weird way, mental health.
Because
and
you know what it
safety.
is? We can't remove mentally ill
Yeah.
people
No,
from
we can't.
society,
I'm
but
not
we
saying we
can
can.
remove AR-15s from society.
I
that's like a
understand that.
lot. That's like an objective step that you can take, that you
Yeah.
can regulate that. But
But-
how do you say, like,
But
we
the
gotta?
healthcare bill had to be funded, and there's a lot of things that are being cut from it. A lot of states are cutting that part.
Well, the people who want gun control are the same people who want more money for mental health, though.
Yes.
So we're talking about one enemy
That's
here.
understanding.
Yeah.
But that's just like maybe, for example, we'll just say New York and New Jersey, right? But we still have like 48 more states to
It can't be
go.
that many
No, but I'm saying, like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying as an example.
states. Sorry.
There's still states that are just still not funding this or too poor to fund it, like Mississippi and Alabama.
Well, they'll get federal funds. I have
They'll
no
get
problem.
federal funds, but then you have governors that won't accept them.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they can go fuck themselves. I know I'm cursing a lot today. I'm just really upset about this.
Yeah.
Because we have a problem in this country where, yes, very conservative states don't want to take money just because because they live in a world of perception. They
Yeah.
don't care about the numbers as much. These are the ones who wanted to help Obamacare fail so that they could say it failed rather than help
Yeah.
people who are just poor.
But
get
allowing
healthcare.
allowing that to fail brought us these mass shooters.
Yeah, it did.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it did. And I just think that I don't like when people I don't like when people try to make it an all or nothing thing where if you put because there are
It's not
parents
an
of
all or
Parkland
nothing.
kids. No, I agree, I understand.
It's not
Like,
an all
for
or
you, it's
nothing.
not. We see Parkland kids, who have like crew cuts where it's like you clearly had that before your daughter was shot, getting on TV saying, "In the name of my daughter, stop taking guns away." Which I saw that too, because that was a guy who saw the opportunity to say, well, my kid died, and that means that I get to have a voice here, and I'm going to use my voice to try to get more kids shot. I know he doesn't mean it that way, but that's
like,
because their
isn't he-
politics says we got to keep these guns. And
He's also grieving. That's another thing.
But
like
he
these people
also
are
seems
grieving.
really that's Meadows' father, right?
the guy who was like, kids are dying because you're trying to push gun control instead of stopping this. It's a
is
disgustingly.
that the one that was like talking about
But
like
he's-
like talking to Trump like my daughter died and I'm pissed, like Meadows' father, because Meadows' father kind of creeps me out a bit, and I completely understand that he's grieving, and I completely understand that like no parent knows how to properly be in this situation because it's the most unnatural thing on earth to bury your child, but like his whole thing is like, oh, like he reminds me a little bit of like the father of the girl that was killed when she was like running in Staten Island, and it was just kind of like, we gotta find these motherfuckers and we gotta get. And it was just like, whoa, like I understand like your kid just died, but like you're being like really like inappropriate.
even his child's
when-
death is through the prism of his politics.
But it's a thing that
That's
like.
how unchanged people can be.
Yeah.
Right.
Hard to change. Yeah.
But then again, you have also a situation that we've never had to deal with. We've never had to bury a child. And then on top of that, it's like you have to grieve, and then you have cameras in your face, and then you have people asking you about your politics, and you make terrible decisions off of that.
You know what it reminds me of?
You don't have a clear head because you're grieving. B, you have to do funeral arrangements for your child. On top of that, you have cameras all over the place asking you about politics in the time when that shouldn't have happened. And then you say the wrong thing, and then everybody just goes after you.
But I think he
because-
believes it. I think that on
No,
some level, and
agreed.
I know this sounds cruel, I think on some level he no longer has his daughter, but he still has his guns. And so he can only really save one.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you're that unhinged and you've dealt, people deal with trauma in different ways. When people like it's one of those things that we talked about, the 1,000-yard stare. When soldiers go off to war and they come back, they may not have injuries, but they're not there. That person is not the same person that left, and you have to understand that that person is no longer in the room. I remember I had a professor, a writing professor, who was a Vietnam veteran, And he would just stare off blankly. And you would talk to him, and he'd be like, what happened? And he had to write everything down because that's part of his PTSD. And it's one of those things that you have to understand that, like, people deal with trauma in different ways. And we have to be a little bit more... we have to be a little forgiving at the moment right now for kind of these people, because we don't know what's happening behind closed doors with them, and we don't know who's the assholes that are pushing politics on these people.
Sure. But you know who wasn't grieving? The parents or the foster parents of Nicholas Cruz, the shooter from Parkland, because they're the ones who they couldn't wait to come out. The parent, no, I'm saying the people who were fostering
The ones that
that
he was
kid,
living with. Yeah.
The first thing they did was come out and say, "What do you mean he shouldn't have had a gun? He's an American citizen. He has every right to."
Oh
that."
yeah, absolutely.
Yes, because
Yeah.
because that's the kind of house he was in.
Yeah.
And-
And it's just like, oh, he has a right, a Second Amendment right to have these guns. Like, no, we shouldn't have taken them away.
Yeah.
But like, I also feel like, and I understand what you're saying about the PTSD, but I also feel like we as a society don't understand or are not very forgiving. Do you want another one? Sure. Of PTSD in most populations, because like, I'd say, I've read an article and I can't remember the exact statistics, but I feel like there's like 60% of women suffer from PTSD, and probably like 90% of people of color suffer from PTSD.
Yeah.
But
Yet those aren't the ones shooting everyone.
But
no,
You just
neither
described the
shoot
two least
everybody.
likely people.
To shoot everybody.
To do
It's
mass
just like,
shootings, yeah.
oh, the prom queen wouldn't let me go out with her, so I'm just gonna shoot up the prom.
It's a
Or-
toxic masculinity problem. I know that's like such a
Yeah.
buzzword, but it really is. This is
Definitely
about
is.
dudes who
But like
just so
black men are also
shooting.
like loads. It's like also
God.
like part of
Where did this go?
masculinity. You know, they're they're men.
There's just as much of a problem of masculinity in every race.
right.
The masculinity
It's
is
just tied to a dick.
sexual violence and masculinity problems happen independent of any color. But yeah, in this country, the people who do mass shootings now, because mass shooting and terrorism are two different things. I know everyone likes to say like it's a racism thing. It's not. It's about reason. It's terrorism based on why you did it.
Yeah.
If you did it for a
Yeah.
political reason, you're a terrorist. Dylan Roof did it because he sides with the KKK. That makes him a terrorist, no
Yeah.
question.
Yep.
Elliot Rodger, the guy who was more of a men's rights guy, that was sort of nebulous because it was like if it depends on if men's rights counts as a political
that would be a
ideology.
But I
terrorist
feel like
ideology.
that's
But yeah,
That's
but
terrorism.
But that is-
it's a little bit more hard.
The
It's a little
Austin
bit more nebulous.
shooter
But yes,
just got
He was a
labeled a
bomber.
domestic terrorist like today.
The bomber?
it really
Yeah.
depends on
Oh,
what
yeah.
his rereasoning was.
Well,
And-
he's a terrorist because he was going after black people and Hispanics.
Oh yeah, then absolutely. If
He's
it
a
was,
racist.
If it was having to do with white nationalism, if it was having to do with anything like that, it is
Yeah, he's a fucking
terrorism. Whereas mass shooting is more something when you're trying to just kill a bunch of people indiscriminately, or because it's like someone you knew. Like
Yeah.
that's why the
Yeah.
San Bernardino one was half and half. His wife was a terrorist and he
Yeah.
was a mass shooter.
Right.
Yeah.
And they found each other.
Right. Oh, so romantic.
That's a love story
They
for the
found
ages.
love in a hopeless place, you guys.
Oh God.
All right, so let's talk about something. Let's move on. 'Cause I don't want to. We get way down here.
It was
I,
Yeah,
so
we
lighthearted.
Yeah.
I want to do something.
Well, we're still like kind of staying on this topic before we take a break because we're going to take a break shortly. But did you guys see that? I guess both Roseanne and Laura Ingraham like were attacking like Hogue the
Yeah, the David. It's
Oh,
Hogg.
gee,
It's-
Roseanne
it's on
doing
Hogg,
something
it's Hogg.
stupid.
I guess
Yeah.
it's Hogg.
Well,
It's
yeah,
Hogg.
well, because Roseanne believes that school shootings are not real because she is.
Retarded.
Well, I mean, that's not the word,
A
but yeah,
cunt?
she's mentally ill. Well, maybe she is that.
Yeah.
But no, she is mentally ill. She's open about being mentally ill, but she refuses to acknowledge the fact that that's why she thinks that there are fucking crisis actors at these schools.
That's why you need to give them medication and access to health.
She's on medication. She's rich. She has all the medication in
Yeah.
the world. She's still fucking
She's just
crazy.
not taking it.
Well,
No, I think
I think she's.
This is her
Yeah.
doing. This is her operating at her best. That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Laura Ingraham.
Oh my
the reason Laura Ingraham attacked this kid, David,
the Fox News person.
yes,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
is because Donald Trump has taught the right that there is no downside of acting like a childish bully. And that's why we have all these people attacking these kids, she's attacking him because he didn't get into a few colleges. Look, he's a kid. If you try hard, yeah, you'll find things to make fun of. But why are you making these children the only adults in this conversation?
Right.
You know how many people are trying to pretend that these kids aren't even really kids, that they're 30-year-olds?
Well, those people are usually the ones from InfoWars or fucking extreme right
But
wing.
there's a lot of those people.
And Donald
Yeah.
Trump
Yeah, but
called
they're
Alex
crazy.
Jones the day of the election and said thank you because now they're mainstreaming.
Well,
and
because
Roseanne is mainstreaming it too.
Donald Trump is just a fucking bully tool. He's a fucking tool. And if you find a way to bully him back, like the Stormy Daniels thing when she used that against him, that's the way to beat him. In order to beat a fucking bully, you got to bully him even harder. And you got to push him up against the fucking wall.
Right.
And you got to fucking, mess with his head.
Did you see what Meghan McCain said about this kid? How everyone is trying so hard to discredit this kid just because he's trying to say he doesn't want to see more of his friends shot? Meghan McCain came out and said, well, I think she tried to really kind of high road him and say,
Right.
well, you use a lot of curse words, and I just don't think that. She was saying that you can't be taken seriously because of all the curse words you use. You're using bleeping this and
Fuck
bleeping that.
her.
Oh, but guess what? What's on Meghan McCain's Twitter? The words "fuck cancer." So they said, well, that's the same word you just said that invalidates his beliefs, but you're saying "fuck cancer." And then her reaction, number one, was to say, oh, well, screw you, you tentacle porn loving asshole.
Whoa.
Because the guy who pointed it out
Damn.
years ago was made fun of because they sort of screenshot where he had on his bookmarks that he liked, he had an anime site, and he was saying, oh, it was for
Well,
research
you know
or
what?
whatever.
To be fair, anyone that watches anime is a loser.
Yeah, that's fair. But it doesn't mean that he's wrong about this.
Yeah, seriously.
But then she starts going on about, well, Fuck Cancer is a really important organization that does good work. And it's like,
Wow.
how can you be this much of a hypocrite? How can you live in this
Right.
world and not see how incredibly hypocritical that is?
Because
And
people don't want to be
Roseanne,
wrong.
tweeted a Hitler salute to Hogg or Hogue. I prefer Hogue. I mean, I don't know his pronunciation, but Hogue
It's
feels
got
less.
2 G's.
Hoagie.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she tweeted the words Hitler salute.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And what she was trying to say is that everyone who disagrees with her is Hitler. She
How-
wasn't saying I support Hitler.
How is the network
I
not cutting her off at
Exactly.
this point?
Well, they did make her delete that tweet.
Right.
Actually.
But
Yeah.
that's just the tweet. That's
But
that's
that's just not the
retarded.
person.
Because they just
Yeah.
want money.
Yeah.
Because they want, just for the same reason that John Goodman does not believe in any of this, but he's taking this paycheck and normalizing Trump. And by the way, one thing about this Roseanne that makes
I
the
love
show,
John Goodman. I know this is that show's bad, but I don't know.
No, I
He'll take
love.
work.
He's great.
He's
And he doesn't
great.
need this either.
No, he
But
does
I think
not.
He just really wanted to do this, and it makes me really sad that all these people are selling this out. Sarah Gilbert especially.
Well,
who
that's
plays,
what I don't
uh,
understand. Yeah.
We know that not only is she as a person anti-Trump, her character, the character she plays in Roseanne. Now, I'm the only one here who watched the show, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
She
Sell
went
out.
out of
Go
her
on, I
way. Yeah. She went out of her way. That character is in the middle. The character just wants her mom and her aunt to get along. That is bullshit. The character of Darlene would hate Trump so much she would never speak to her parents again.
Totally.
That's who the character Darlene was, and they are betraying everything about that. Jackie would have been one who argued with Roseanne and
Right.
said, "I'm a nasty woman and I think Trump is an asshole." Darlene would have not spoken to her family anymore because
Right.
that character had real integrity and actually cared about things. If you know the show, it is disgusting to watch that character just be in the middle and not care one way or the other when she has a fucking transgender son. And to not care about Trump and what he's doing in this country.
It's called a
But, like-
paycheck that she needs at the moment.
She's on the View ripoff.
The
She's
Talk.
doing fine.
Yeah.
She's
Fine.
she's the producer of the
View
talk.
She
so,
makes
like,
$4,000 a month doing the talk.
Yeah,
she
it's
is
enough.
fine.
but she produces the talk, and she also has Moonves as his wife as
Yeah.
one of the. That show will never get canceled. So I don't. John Goodman, I feel like
I feel
maybe
bad
he
for
made
him.
some bad bets and he's trying to cover it.
Oh, no, he's doing
her.
great.
I feel like she's got this show that will never be canceled because she made the smart enough decision to make sure that Moonvez's wife is on the show. He's never going to cancel
That's
him.
a very good point. Though I'll tell you, I'm sure John Goodman has more money than her. He's
Oh,
been in
yeah.
a lot of really big movies over the last decade. So
True.
he's
loved him
doing
in
this because I think
Kong.
he loves the show. And I get that. I have no problem with that. And I think everyone's just sort of going along with this because it's worth it, and then they have to just deal with Roseanne. I mean, line by line, defending Trump, legitimizing Trump, attacking anyone, attacking Colin Kaepernick, attacking anyone who voted for Hillary, attacking anyone who thinks that there's a problem with Russia. She's mocking people who thinking that the Russia thing, as if we're still living in the universe where the Russia story could have been a witch hunt. Like there haven't been 5 people pleading guilty. Like we haven't indicted people. Like we just didn't find out Robert Gates was openly talking to Russian spies.
That's another thing too, is that the Colin Kaepernick thing is like it also attaches itself to the gun issue, because then you have that issue of like cops shooting unarmed black people,
Right.
and that leads into that whole defense of like defending yourself against armed people, because that's another thing too. You need a weapon to defend yourself.
I don't
Against
think
the cops.
Well, yeah.
Well, if a
I think
cop's
that's
being a
going the wrong
dick.
direction. See, I don't agree with that because I think that
Well,
if
you
we-
have a lot of videos of like minority people getting shot.
the more police are
Unreason.
yeah, but that's horrible. But the more
And
cops
racist
are
Justice
afraid of people
Department.
having guns, the more trigger happy they're going to be. We need to retrain and honestly get turnover with cops. The only way, the way cops things are going to get better is not going to be by arming the people that they're shooting.
No,
at.
it's not arming them.
They're
It's
shooting because they think they're armed.
But
Yeah,
it's
and
another.
they're not when
but-
they're not.
yeah.
But
It's
that's
like-
the thing
yeah.
is that they're always turning off the body cam. They're always, finding
Because it's
excuses.
premeditated.
Well-
it is a premeditated murder.
Well,
That's
they
the
need
problem.
to not be allowed to turn off their body cams. We need
But
someone.
they're
in-
doing it, and then they're having their sergeants back them up, and their captains back them up, and they're going to the press and being like, "We don't know how a body cam can be turned off. Fuck you.
Yeah.
You know why?
Honestly,
You're
we'll-
being a fucking racist bastard." On top of that, there's been a lot of stuff where the Justice Department has turned a blind eye, especially with corruption in the police department.
Yeah.
They
You mean
don't.
the Keebler elf?
Yeah.
Well-
Jeff Sessions, of course.
Yeah,
is-
but he's not going to do shit. And the last
Of course
time,
not. He's
well,
racist.
he's doing
Yeah.
plenty. He's doing plenty
well,
to
he's
help
doing
him. Yeah.
plenty to be a fucking asshole.
make
but
things
that's
worse.
That's the thing is what I'm trying to say is like you have issues like this. That's when I'm like the most pro gun is like fuck those people. If the Justice Department is just gonna do that shit, then there's no real. I don't care. Like that's the thing about that. It's just it's this animosity. And then of course when you do the Colin Kaepernick thing. And they twisted it over to be like, oh, it's about the flag. No, it's not about the flag.
nothing to do with the
it's
flag.
about
Nothing
the
at all.
fucking. It's about the fact that fucking cops are shooting unarmed people, especially minorities, and also people with mental health, like mental disabilities and other things like that, for no reason, and then getting away with it, and then having their HR department be like, well, it's tough to be a cop.
And by the way, that's
Yeah.
why Colin Kaepernick is making the protest during the national anthem, because that's the one time he can get your attention.
Yes.
Right.
That's the whole point. And it's just like all these people keep saying about, you should protest. You should learn to protest in a way that's nonviolent. Oh, you mean like during the anthem?
Yeah.
But yeah, when she attacked Kaepernick, what we saw was, and I'm saying the joke was just her attacking Jackie. Like, what's wrong, Jackie? You gonna take a knee? And then all the MAGA
Jesus
fans in the audience
Christ.
start applauding because they loaded that audience with Trump people. By the way, they definitely
They had to.
Gross.
they went out of their way to.
Not
because
that I watched
who's
it.
gonna go to
Who
Roseanne
else
right
would?
now?
Sell
Yeah.
out.
Who
Okay.
else would? Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus fucking
And
Christ.
but she's acting like someone who thinks Sean Hannity is funny. That's the way
Really?
Roseanne is acting on this show.
Right.
She's acting the kind of person who thinks she's acting like the kind of person, which is this new thing that exists now, that thinks anything that makes a liberal upset is good. Even if
yeah.
it doesn't help us, as long as you make a liberal angry,
tears.
it's this insanely, just insidiously dark and nasty, hateful way of thinking.
But it's
that they're
pandering.
just happy to hurt people.
It's pandering. It's the same kind of pandering if you were to do it in the liberal sense. It's pandering to the conservatives. And that's the problem. It's that it's not funny. It's
But
just
I've heard
pandering.
I've seen a lot of liberal people say they like it
I don't care.
on the internet.
Like what? And how do you mean?
Like, oh, Roseanne presented some good. There was like jokes. It made her into a real person. It made us understand the other side.
Jesus.
there was like both sides, but I saw some
And
people be
my
like, good
thought
jokes.
is
like,
any liberal that watched Roseanne can go fuck themselves, just like any fucking Trump supporter.
Yeah.
I did
Like,
it for
what
the
the
show.
fuck are you doing?
I did it for the show.
Except for Dave.
Yeah, you can go fuck yourself, Dave.
No, I think anyone should have the right to see it and watch it for themselves. But it's the same thing with Will and Grace. How Will and Grace made the Karen character a
Yeah.
Trump supporter. They're doing it to create buzz and controversy, which
Right.
is why CNN and MSNBC showed all his speeches during the 2016 election, which is why he got elected, because we
Right.
made people used to it, and we are in a very dangerous
Plus,
point
we
in
love
culture
train
It
wrecks.
made-
where
yeah.
negative attention has more positive than negative benefits for people, and that creates, I think, a sort of system that's definitely going to kill us all.
But
because if being a bad person gets you power, we are beyond fucked.
Well, we're all
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
die. But on that note, we need to take a little break, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation. This has been Blame Storming. We will be right back.
Peace out.
Bye.
to Blamestorming. Blamestorming. In a post-truth world, there's plenty of blame to go around. 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 Join Dave Cyrus and Marissa Smith as they blamestorm as they blamestorm about today's hot topics.
Hey guys, welcome back to Blamestorming. I'm Marissa Smith. I've got Dave Cyrus with me.
Hi.
I've got Chris Crispo with me.
Crespo.
Crespo.
It's okay. I'm here.
Sorry,
Hey, guys.
Crespo. And I've got Maddie Smith with
What
me.
up?
All my friends, all Roast Battle friends of mine, you can see all of us on the Stand YouTube.
Yeah.
Roast battling.
Killing it.
Yes, we are what they consider the elites
Yeah, we
of
are.
the New York roast battle
Yeah.
scene.
I'm okay.
And
Oh,
wife,
well,
wife
stop.
material.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Can we talk about that for a second? So if you go to these roast battle videos, there's a lot of comments from people
Big following.
that are all it's like a weird kind of subculture of people who don't quite understand roast battle. Like they think that we
Right.
care what
They're
people say
like-
about us.
They're like Legion of Skanks fans.
I-
They'll follow me on Instagram and their profile picture is a motorcycle.
Yes,
You know?
exactly. And
I
there's
care.
there are great comments about it where they try to like break down battles, but nothing was better than when one guy someone made a joke about no one want. Oh yeah, Chris did a joke about how no one would want to marry Maddie. It was a joke about having a ring
We
because you
neither
don't
could have rings on
because
our
you
fingers.
can't
No, we
because you
don't.
can put a ring on your
Yeah.
let's call them fingers.
Yeah.
And
They're
so
not fingers.
they get they can pull a trigger
They
though.
tried.
Get the job done. But yeah, and the guy said, it's funny that he made that joke about Maddie not being marriage material because actually she's really wifeable. She's both funny and cute, and you can just really see her being down to earth. And then like some other guy starts being like,
For sure.
yeah, man, I know what you're talking about. If I was going to marry someone, it's like, wow, this is
There was
the...
like definitely there was like thumbs up on like the back and forth.
They were going back and forth.
Yeah, usually
about...
YouTube they're like, you're a cunt. Stop laughing at your jokes, you fucking whore. You're fat. And this was like, yeah, I could see myself settling down with her.
And like, isn't it weird that is by far the creepiest comment you've ever gotten?
Yeah,
The one that's
I
the
would much
nicest?
rather someone just be mean to me.
Yeah, no, it was amazing because like you really get this impression that people are watching these like a lot and really starting
Yeah.
to build up a backstory
Yeah,
about these people
definitely.
because you would make a terrible wife.
Oh, awful.
Yeah.
But they see this one roast battle where I laugh and I'm like goofy and they're like, whoa, yeah, I'm gonna.
Well, it's also because
yeah.
they also think that because you do roast battle that you're the kind of you'd be like, I bet she wouldn't leave me for saying the N-word in traffic.
And she would go to the football games and play along and
Well,
laugh.
you are a Bills fan.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is
I bet
sad.
she wouldn't need to ask why I'm packing a bunch of bananas to go to that soccer game against an
Yeah.
African country.
She wouldn't tell on me for the child porn.
He
She'd
is
be cool
hungry,
about it.
Dave.
Yeah.
He is hungry.
She doesn't get jealous of that anime body pillow I have.
Right? She would ask it to join.
She's a cool chick.
It's crazy. That's what they think they know my personality. Well,
They
you
really
guess,
do.
But, yeah.
Well, the
So
funny
weird.
thing about it also, I think you mentioned, was like how there'll be a joke and they'll be like, "Oh, you can really tell that joke got to her."
I
And
know.
It's like,
Oh,
no,
No,
No.
he's saying the joke, and I'm thinking of what I'm supposed to do next. There's no when you do enough, the words go through you.
Yeah.
Have you literally ever had a roast joke that honestly offended you or hurt your feelings?
No, not from me. I mean, I every time I go on a roast, it doesn't matter who I'm fighting. It's like I know it's a roast, and it's just fun. I will take notice if I feel like the joke is really good. I'm like, ooh, that was really well written.
Yeah. You're
But-
like it's less personal and more like fuck that was good. He might pass me for that. Less personal and more like
Yeah.
fight based,
Yeah, because I mean,
strategic based. Like oh fuck that hurts my momentum.
Yeah.
and there are
Not
things,
about what he's saying.
That's
yeah.
the thing. I know there are things you could say about me that would hurt my feelings, but no one's ever come close to it when trying to hurt my feelings.
Right.
That's actually the kind of the sad thing. I'm like, oh, no one can tell. No one ever notices what actually hurts me.
It feels
Yo.
like he's testing us. Like, find what hurts me.
Yeah.
Hey, if you
Find
can't-
my weak underbelly.
Yes.
Yeah.
be
Stab
my
it.
guest.
Right.
If you can get it, you'll get it. I still won't let you know then.
Right.
So, Maddie, what's going on in Nickelodeon?
Dan Schneider, big producer there, was let go. He was the one who started up All That, The
Okay.
Amanda Show, Zoe
Right.
101.
Wait a second. Is that the voice of Master Shake?
No.
No.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah. I thought.
I
No.
thought that was
Google
his
it
name.
at your
No,
own
Dave.
peril, Dave.
No, Dave,
No,
we would have a different conversation.
No,
Because
I thought.
I do watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and
Damn.
He's a fat dude who is rumored to have abused many teens and young children on the show.
Oh, just so you know, there are several quotes right now. People saying Dana Snyder and Dan Schneider are not the same
cool.
person. So that's who I was thinking of.
Good to know.
There you go.
Okay.
Oh,
There you
yeah.
go.
I was close.
Yeah.
I was
totally. You weren't the only one.
Yeah. So what is
So-
happening with this guy?
Yeah, so now they're saying that he abused children. Is this
There's rumors,
Okay.
and well, the rumors. I'm on deep gossip web for celebrity gossip. That's all I
Okay.
do all day. But it's like years back. He's the reason why like Amanda Bynes eventually went crazy.
Oh my
Really?
The
god.
timeline of her going crazy is like that of like someone who was abused as a child, whether like sexually or like whatever, sexually. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
When it started
Allegedly,
coming
yeah.
out, like the timeline of Amanda Bynes and then Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears all have the pattern of someone who was abused as a
Oh
child,
my-
and it
wait,
came
wait.
out at age like
All three of those women were made crazy by the same guy.
not the same guy.
Oh,
but
okay.
the
Jesus.
patterns indicate that these child stars, young women, were abused.
So now, like, I
Holy
read like
shit.
a couple of articles about it, just kind of like when you threw it down, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
who is this fella?
fat.
And yeah, he is quite rotund.
Yes.
That's it. Take him down a peg.
Yeah.
You know,
Vocabulary words.
there you go. He looks like a rococo. But he was they were saying that he made teen stars like take photos of their feet.
Yes.
Like
It's rumored. Allegedly, he has a.
and then
he
like
has
his
had a foot
Instagram were
fetish.
all these like teen stars and their tussies.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I mean, no wonder Amanda Bynes is insane. Like she
Yeah,
had
right?
like a bad petty one day,
Right.
and then he just like reamed into
Right.
her.
Ugh.
It's just like you're French on your toes.
I would have given
Right.
anything to hear the exact made up on the spot explanation for why he needs the toe pictures.
Right.
like-
Because you know he had a reason. You know he was
it's,
like,
it's for a new TV
hey,
show about toes.
Reebok wants to advertise with
Yeah.
us, but they're gonna need pictures of your feet.
Right.
Okay, now they need to be sweatier.
Right.
No
like,
one's ever
well-
Now
asked
they need to be stepping on snails.
No one's
It's
ever
like
asked me
now
for
you
my
need to
feet.
step on my dick.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
also rumored that he is the father of Jamie Lynn Spears' child.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
When
No.
Zoe
Oh.
and if
No,
you
Maddie.
look up her child, she looks like him.
Well, that's only
She-
because
Maddie,
he looks like a newborn
no.
baby.
I know that's true.
Dana Schneider
But she's
looks
like
exactly
older now.
like
Not
Oh
Dana,
my
Dan.
God.
Dan,
Dan.
Schneider.
Dan Schneider does look like a newborn baby.
But are you guys surprised? I mean, there's pedophilia throughout Hollywood.
Yeah. Why
There's
else would
no
you work in this
surprise that
industry?
Nickelodeon is a
Nice,
feeding
Dave.
ground for it. But
Oh Jesus! I just realized who he is.
yes.
He's the guy from he's the guy from that '80s sitcom.
Oh yeah,
He's
he was
the
in
fat
TV
guy
Show. Yeah.
from
and he
the
looks exactly the same.
what was the head of the class?
Yeah.
He was the
He was in
fat
there.
guy from that show, Head of the Class.
No.
Yes, he
Yeah.
is. No,
Yeah.
he
Is
is.
he?
Yeah, yeah.
Google.
And then he
Remember
went on to produce
Him,
after that.
he was the best friend of that kid Arvid. They were like the nerds in the class, and it was that show with
With Rain?
yes, with Rain Pryor. Yes, that's who Dan Schneider is.
Yeah.
Oh
So he
my
went on to produce after that
God.
show.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So he was a child star himself.
Yeah.
So it's not his fault.
No.
No,
yeah,
well-
well,
So everything.
it's a cycle. Yeah.
Oh
It's a
my
cycle.
God.
Yeah.
He's the victim
Actually,
here.
yeah. Whoa. Oh
no.
my God, such a good point.
Whoa,
Yo.
whoa, whoa. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, you were just
Man's
talking
rights
about mental
activist.
health, dude.
Yeah. But this is like
He should
crazy.
he should be allowed to molest as many kids as he wants.
Ugh. Apparently, a lot of people, or everyone at Nickelodeon knew. I mean, it makes sense,
Oh,
right?
Jesus Christ. That's what I don't get is this whole thing of like, because everyone does it. Everyone keeps these secrets
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ.
as if they don't like. What are they so? If you know someone's touching kids, what are you really afraid of is going to happen to you if you come out with it?
I don't know. He seemed very powerful. It was the same thing with like Sandusky.
Well, yeah.
Penn State.
Well, he
Just,
was
like,
the defensive coordinator,
Right.
and he was helping. And Paterno was like the most winning coach on that.
Right.
So they were probably thinking like, "Oh, if we get this guy out, our defense is terrible."
Yeah,
But that's not the point. The point is that children are being harmed.
I know, but that's how dedicated people can be to their.
No, it just proves that Pennsylvanians are retarded.
Yo,
They're fucking retarded.
very retarded.
You say that word with only with the confidence only a man with no arms
right?
or legs
He's
I-
allowed
can
to
get
say
away
it
with.
because
Fucking hate Pennsylvanian
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah, I mean, well, the Sandusky thing, I remember the excuses people made for Paterno were, well, he's such an old school guy, he probably doesn't know that child molestation exists.
It is
Just
a
shut up.
facility.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
It is
Right.
facility. It was
Right.
in the fucking football facility. He brought
Yeah.
kids there.
I mean,
Yeah.
wasn't it like in the depositions that they heard the thumpings and screamings in the
yeah.
showers?
Someone said
No,
Jesus.
they heard horseplay.
Oh yeah, they saw an arm
Rhythmic
come out of a
horseplay.
shower.
Horseplay can be very rhythmic.
Yeah,
It can
okay.
be very- it can have a very
Yeah.
steady beat to it.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
And they're
I
sobbing.
hope we're proud of ourselves right now.
It's like,
Well,
where's
yeah.
my mom?
But yeah, this thing with,
God
with the
damn
Nicole, which
it.
it just came out. I mean, it's unfortunately not surprising because it's just like anytime you hear kids getting taken advantage of, it's well, who do you think tries to get these jobs?
the priest.
Not only bad people, but if
Yeah.
you're a sick person who wants access to kids, you'd probably start working with kids.
And yeah, totally. Or in Hollywood in general.
That's,
well,
There's kids abound.
that's a
that's
problem.
true. That is
I've
that is
definitely
bad.
like stopped dating guys because I thought that it was kind of. Oh, sorry, I got all the cords wrapped around my feet.
Oh.
So
That's okay.
okay, you got it.
Yeah.
So like I was dating this one guy that was a teacher, and we're like probably on our third date, and I was like handing him something, and then he was just like, "Oh, your hands are so small; they're almost childlike," and I'm like, "Oh,
Oh, boy.
yeah."
well,
Yeah.
No.
women like to hear that they have incredibly small hands and feet for some reason.
Well,
I'm
no,
a woman
Dave.
and I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Like I know I have small hands. Like don't bring it to my attention. I don't like being a failure.
All right, let's test it out.
Well,
Yes.
yeah.
Your hands are big. Your hands
I
are
have
bigger
big
than
hands.
than Chris's.
That's why dudes
That's
don't
what
like me.
You do have very long. You have very long hands.
I know.
Yes. You
Women
don't.
don't
You
like
don't
me
have
for
big
my
Dudes
hands.
don't
You have long
stick around.
fingers. So
Yeah.
at least they're elegant.
Let me see.
Yeah. So
Ew,
yeah.
I'm creepy. Yeah, basically like a
Like,
dude.
So our hands are
right.
basically the same. Mine are
Yeah,
thicker.
but
At
my
least.
fingers are like longer.
Your fingers are slightly longer than mine.
All right,
Well,
I'm going in. Look at.
Oh jeez. Sorry.
We're
Okay.
touching.
Okay. Yeah.
This is oddly
Oh,
arousing
yeah.
me.
So yeah, Maddie's hands
Ew,
are.
I'm so gross.
Okay. Maddie and
She has
Marissa.
the biggest hands.
Ew.
Maddie-
and the biggest dick.
Oh, that's probably true. Yeah,
Maddie
that's
and
true.
Marissa
That
touching
is true.
hands looks like it looks like an advertisement for not being racist of like a giant white hand encasing a black child.
yes, yes.
Wait, Dave, we can
Brotherhood.
make this creepier.
Yes, there you
Let's
go.
make
This
Okay.
creepier.
Chris
Oh.
has huge
All right.
hands.
Well, my
Not,
thumb,
no.
my thumb is still.
Well, my hand is
Well, you're
side.
counting your
we
elbow.
don't know what that is.
Well, well, you're
All right,
counting.
this is weird. All right, but we're trying
That doesn't count as part of your hand.
to. This
Only-
is part of my hand then.
Oh,
This
well-
would be my elbow.
okay.
This
well,
is like trying to figure out a hoof is like where
Yeah,
the
right?
palm of a
Yeah.
hoof is. It's
Yeah,
weird.
that's his
either way,
hands.
mine is bigger.
Yes. Women have never been excited about small hands ever.
Right. Well, at least with
Yeah,
your. You
I
have an
agree,
excuse.
Chris.
They're
I
not-
agree.
Thank you.
I'll
they're-
take large hands, please.
Yeah.
For 400.
You know when you know it's funny when I met Trump, it was before the whole argument, before we started finding out he's really sensitive about his hand size, and I literally just one-on-one when I was looking at him, and I was just looking at his hands, being like, wow, he has really really short
shit.
fingers.
Whoa.
Like his hands are fat,
Creepy.
but they're short.
Ew.
Like he has like these like nubby fingers,
Well,
and I
he's
know
a
everyone talks
beast.
about
Hate
that.
it.
But I remember he had a big bruise on his nail one time, and I remember just being like,
From a
those are-
hooker?
Those are gross.
I hate those. Yeah.
Those are
Yeah,
gross. You have a big
gross.
bruise in your
Ew,
fingernail.
ew.
I know,
So
right?
now-
And then the
now do you
nail's
hate
gonna
him?
fall
Yeah,
off
yeah.
eventually. I mean, I didn't need that. I would have hated him anyway.
Also, his hair is ridiculous.
Oh, it's so
So
fake.
now, did you see the whole
When his hair
like
came off.
Darth Vader
Yeah.
comb over up
Sure.
close, like just like the wraparound?
Well, you know what that
like-
is, I think. I think it's because he had the hair removed from the back of his head and implanted on the top of his head.
Gross.
And the idea there being no one cares about the back of your head. So he covers that. I mean, there is a
And then
chart.
does like a duck's ass in the
Yeah.
back.
Well, there's a chart that
Yes.
explains it. What he does is he grows the hair on the side of his head incredibly long to wrap around the head.
Ugh.
Because like when you go bald, there's always like usually the back of the head and the side. It's always and that you can wrap around.
Right.
And he does that double blowout thing, where he
Okay.
blow dries it both
I would
directions.
be terrified to see. au
Which, by the way,
naturel.
he said once he was president, he would no longer have that hair because it takes him too long to do every morning.
Ugh.
But as we know, he has
does
a lot
it
of
every
time.
morning.
Well, he also spends 5 hours watching
Fox and
News every
Friends?
morning before he starts his day. So he obviously has
Gross.
plenty of free time.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
He tweets at like 3 a.m.
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's so fucking weird.
and
While he's eating chicken, most likely.
No, he's
Yeah.
eating a burger.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
he-
man.
I thought he
But-
ate chips, potato chips.
He does,
Yeah, he
yeah.
does,
Yeah.
but
Well,
he also
eats
eats burgers.
He eats
at
Big
night.
Macs because he's afraid of being poisoned. And Corey Lewandowski said, "Well, it's okay that he eats all these Big Macs because he usually throws out the bread, and that's the bad part." No,
Ew.
Really?
The bread is the bad part when you're talking about anything other than McDonald's
Yeah.
hamburgers.
That beef
Yeah.
is like,
You,
yo.
you wife-beating lunatic,
Ugh.
Corey.
He also has
Yeah,
Diet Cokes.
right? Ugh.
He drinks a shit ton of Diet
Like a
Coke.
12-pack of Diet
Yeah.
Cokes a day.
That's insane. I don't like Diet Cokes. And
I drink a
drinking,
lot, so
yeah, I
you better watch
I-
it.
actually
Oh,
hate
damn.
Diet Coke, but I'll
I
drink
don't
it for the caffeine.
Maddie got
I don't
serious.
Yeah.
drink any diet anything.
You know what was great, by the way? Speaking of diet soda, I'm going to get a little controversial here for a second. RC10 came out a few years ago, and it was the best diet soda I've ever had, and I've had it all over the world.
Maddie's like prepping her gun right now.
RC10,
Yeah, I'm
but
Cocking the
RC10,
gun.
it was it tasted exactly like real Coke.
Hmm.
The problem was the campaign for RC10 was
Bye,
the single worst commercial campaign I ever saw because it was a guy in like a Jeep going, RC10, it's not for women. Yeah, yeah, great.
Oh,
I'm
shit.
in.
So, like, Will and Grace isn't
Yes.
willing to throw away the 5 gay Trump supporters they might have, but RC10 is like, you know who we don't need buying our
Half the
diet
population.
soda?
Yeah.
90% of the
100
people
yeah.
who buy diet
Right.
soda. Let's
Right.
piss all them
Yeah.
off. And it's sad because I'm telling you, it was fucking
Damn. Sad I missed
amazing.
it.
It was so good. Had 10 calories.
Mm.
But
So that's why it's
That's
10
too many for
and
me.
not
Yeah.
I'm not even, I can't even, and it happened right when I was quitting diet soda, and it dragged me back in
Don't
because
do
just for like a
it.
year you could
Tastes
get
so good. Mm.
No.
It makes Coke
I
Zero
can't.
look like a pile of
Coke
dead
Zero
babies.
sucks.
No, Coke Zero is better than Diet Coke.
Ugh, I disagree.
Oh my God.
You're sick.
Highly disagree.
You
I'm
are
walking away.
So now, while
It's
we
gonna
were
get
on
violent
the topic,
really fast.
Oh.
while we were on the topic of Trump, did you guys hear that Trump's lawyer or ex-lawyer, because
John
he left,
Dowd.
Oh, he
or
quit.
John
Yeah,
Dowd?
he left.
Well, he did leave, but now they're saying that John Dowd had made some sort of
He suggested some pardons.
Yeah, so like he suggested that he would pardon Manafort and Flynn if they would not testify against Trump.
Yeah, I mean that's reported like it's a surprise, like
Isn't
any of us
that-
don't know that's what they're planning to do.
What's that called? What's
Obstruction?
Obstruction.
Besides obstruction of
It's
justice,
not
there's
collusion.
something that-
It
no,
wouldn't-
no, it's not collusion. I know that. It's not obstruction of justice. It's something else. It's when you're.
Fucking stupid.
It's called
No, I
being
know it's fucking stupid, but there's another word for it.
dictatorship,
No,
mafia.
no. It's like when
Sounds
you,
like-
when you force someone to do something to get out of a jam. Entrapment. There it is.
I don't know if it's entrapment.
Would that be it?
Entrapment is when you suggest a crime to someone to get them to go along with
God
it.
damn it! I did it wrong.
So in this case, I mean, we all know he's thinking about it. And John Dowd, of course, he was the lawyer who quit Trump's legal team and did something very odd. He publicly said, "I'm quitting because he's not listening to me," which is a very odd thing for any lawyer to
Gee,
do.
Trump not listening? What a surprise!
But yeah, I don't think there's obviously nothing surprising about this. I'm sure every lawyer has discussed. Some are probably begging him not to, but Trump is not really thinking any of this through. I'm sure he's already been talked out of preemptively pardoning all these people because at some level he must have thought, why can't I just pardon everyone preemptively?
Do you know how frightening it is to be in that White House and hear Trump say that he's going to do that, and it's your job on the line, and you have to be like, Trump, please don't do this because you'll bring us all down.
Well-
We're all going to federal prison if you do this.
I think a
Well,
lot
if
of
you're
people,
in that office, you deserve to be there.
I
think
know, but I mean, like, imagine being the person being like, you know what?
well,
Fuck it.
They should
I'm-
all be afraid.
At this point, I don't care if the fucking housekeeper goes to jail. Like, get them all the fuck out.
No, the
Well,
housekeeper never leaves. No, the
I'll
the
tell you
people
what's
that work
happening.
in the White House, like the cooks and the cleaners and stuff,
They stay.
they stay there. That's their job
The
forever.
cooks,
But they
by the way,
hear
aren't working.
everything.
The
They
coo-
literally hear everything
You know, he
Yeah.
doesn't use the cook.
because
No.
he goes to
You're-
McDonald's.
that's actually a
But
thing
does
that
the
like
I
cook
wrote a
still
bit
go to
about
work?
it.
he's been using the cook less than like
I
any
wrote a bit
president.
about
But does
the
he
cook.
still go to work every day?
Oh, the cook. Oh yeah, he still has to
Yeah,
like,
he
be
still
there.
gets paid.
Yeah,
That's true.
He still gets paid. He gets paid, but the thing is that
he thinks
Trump's
the
just
deep
eating-
state is going to poison him, like it's Rome because
crazy.
well
he's
because
retarded.
he's paranoid and he's not he's obviously.
I-
But like,
lost
why
his
does
lost
the
his
deep
grip.
state need to poison him when he's obviously going to have
What is
some sort of stroke on his own volition?
well?
Oh,
What does
'cause
the
he's
deep
not.
state need to poison their own puppet? It doesn't make sense.
Well, because he thinks the deep state is that Barack Obama is still secretly president, which is a belief out of desperation because you need someone to blame for things and he's in charge. So they need people to. So when bad things happen, they need to be able to say, oh, well, Trump couldn't be the cause of this. It must be that there's a secret other government I can blame. It's kind of like how
The
in Nazi.
Illuminati.
This fan fiction.
In Nazi Germany,
Yeah.
in Nazi Germany, there was a phrase that people would say whenever bad things happened in Nazi Germany. The phrase was, "If only Hitler knew." It was this thing they put out where they would basically,
Yeah.
as a way of people not blaming him for how horrible things were going, they would all say, "Oh, if only Hitler knew." And that's the sort of what Trump wants. He wants this kind of blame. I mean, he wants to be treated like a god who doesn't have the rules apply to him.
He doesn't
And
have
speaking of
shit.
going to jail, right now, the person who looks most likely to go to jail is Jared.
Jared, yeah.
That is amazing. He put his daughter's husband in the most dangerous position because of the loyalty thing, because he wanted someone he didn't think would turn on him. And now we're finding out that Jared has just been using his position to just make money because Jared is begging for money like a crackhead. I don't know if you know this. Jared, you know how like when we put Qatar on
Right, that's because like they
Because-
wouldn't give him money.
we sanctioned them because they wouldn't give him a loan, and then suddenly we're getting ethics violations because people are going to meetings in the White House, Jared Kushner, and suddenly giving him $100 million. But here's something else I learned from our friend David Feldman. He's not just asking for $100 million from Qatar; he's borrowing like 50 grand from this guy and 10 grand from this guy, like someone who there's something we don't know
Sucking
about
dick.
going
Yeah,
on,
right,
like
yeah.
someone who's desperate
Right.
to stay out of debt.
Right.
And
Oh my
and I think Trump may have very well have just told him, listen, do it all. Just use the office to make as much money as we can because I can just pardon you. Because that's what a mob president would act like. And he is acting like that.
If he would have,
But I feel like he's just taking out his like biggest competition because if Jared's in jail, then he has way bigger chance to bang Ivanka.
well,
well-
also it would throw the press, especially Fox News, into how Jared was evil, and it would put a whole spin on the whole thing. Plus, it gives him a scapegoat. To be very, very honest with you, if he is using Jared as a scapegoat, that's a brilliant tactic. Because then what ends up happening is the press goes after Jared, and he gets all that. It will go away
Well, the thing
for
is,
shortly.
If Jared goes down, it's very hard for Trump to act blameless. Because if it was someone like
But
Flynn,
here's the thing.
or someone is a government, if a government worker goes down for this, he can say, "Oh, this is who this person was."
Yes.
Jared is an extension of him.
Yeah,
Jared doesn't
totally.
belong there. He has no experience there.
Whoa.
And he put
no one's
them there.
believing that Jared's doing anything without Trump's approval.
Here's the thing, though. If Jared goes down, Jared's expendable. To be very honest with you, Jared's expendable.
You think he's gonna kill him?
Trump,
No,
but
he's gonna
not
he's
to
gonna throw him.
Ivanka.
No, but he's gonna exactly. But he has Ivanka.
And
has
what if
him.
Jared doesn't want to go down?
That's
What
the-
if Jared's father says,
Oh,
"Don't.
but-
This is not going to prison.
Here's-
Isn't worth it."
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's we want this to be true. We want Jared to be the scapegoat. Because if Jared's the scapegoat and he doesn't realize it until the very end when he gets put in jail, he'll sing.
Exactly.
He'll sing
yeah.
because he'll realize that Trump isn't loyal to him.
I do think Jared's going to
He's
sing.
gonna sing anyway, but
no,
I
he's
feel
not.
like
He's not going to sing now because he believes Trump would be feeding him bullshit that he's on his side, that he's going to protect him.
And no matter
But
what happens,
I-
I'll pardon
what
you.
I
Yeah, and that
disagree with
that
is
Ivanka
that-
loves you.
is that Jared's father hates Trump.
Yeah.
And so he's more loyal to his own father than he's going to be to his wife's father.
I think he's going to be
And-
more loyal to his family and not wanting to
Oh.
leave his young child and go to prison. I
Well,
think
federal prison.
Well, because
which is
he
worse.
experienced that
That's
because
federal's
his
better.
dad,
Well,
he doesn't
federal's
want to
better,
share his
but you're-
dad's cell.
But you're more in isolation.
But I kind of feel like this is the long game for Jared. Was that like his dad kind of always was just like, all right, like you do what you need to do, and you're welcome, and you do what you need to do for your family, but never trust this fucker. And I feel like this is like Jared's dad's long game to make Trump feel like he's completely castrated and that he's just following everything that Trump wants him to do when he's just laying traps. And I feel like Jared has been laying traps.
I have a
this whole
different
time.
theory. I think that Jared and Donald are two of the stupidest people that have ever been anywhere close to this situation, and they are not thinking 1.5 steps ahead. I think Jared got into this office and said, "Oh, I bet I could get money from these people." I don't think they thought, because don't forget, Jared is the one who told him to fire Comey. And firing Comey is what created this whole problem for Trump in the first place of the obstruction.
Right,
When
but
Jared
if you
told him to
hated
fire
Trump,
Comey-
that's what you would tell him to do, though.
But Jared's not that smart,
I
and
don't
Jared
think he's
wanted
that
Trump to
smart,
make
yeah.
it.
Jared's
I think they're both
retarded.
Jared
yeah.
told him to fire Comey for one reason and one reason only, because Jared Kushner was the first person in 40 years to set foot into the White House without actually knowing what Richard Nixon was impeached for, which was firing the people who were investigating his own crimes. So I think Jared literally did not know that that was a problem. I think he thought, hey, if you fire Comey, he's gone, and then we can get rid of this. I think that's how simple these people think.
I think so,
I think
too.
that's why Ivanka married him in the
Yeah.
first place, because he's just like her daddy. And I think
Who's retarded.
And if you listen to Jared speak, if you listen to him try to defend himself, he actually does come off like a guy in his late 30s who never had a real job that his parents didn't give him. I think Jared just took this opportunity to do a
Hey.
big cash grab and is going.
What?
No, I was like, hey.
What I do?
Give him a
He's
break.
in his 30s. He's
Yeah.
never had a real job.
Yeah.
Oh yes, sorry. You're a
You should be a
teacher. You have a
substitute
real
teacher.
job.
Kind of.
You have a job that you weren't given by your dad. No, I'm
No.
saying I think that Jared is the only person in that building dumber than his father-in-law, and I think that they never thought they were going to win this election, so
Jared.
they left so many breadcrumbs.
Totally.
And I
Jared-
believe that Jared and Trump are both. I know it's people think I'm being crazy when I say that this is going to end with Trump in prison, but I don't know. I don't think he's smart enough to not put himself there. So
I think he'll try to distance himself from Jared. I don't think he'll. It's very, very, very fucking hard to imagine Trump in prison because that's a president. That is.
If this were a
that is
movie-
insane. And let me tell you, they thought about putting Nixon in prison, and Gerald Ford was like, "We're not having that."
Well, that cost
Ger-
Gerald Ford re-election.
Exactly,
Gerald Ford was
but
not
Gerald Ford-
It's not a popular decision he made.
No, no, I understand that. But Gerald Ford understood that if you put a president in a federal prison, that is going to send shockwaves
See, I think that
around the world.
I agree with you that that's why he did that. But I think it's different with Trump because I think that when this is all over, when Mueller's investigation shows everything they have, and we start really seeing. When we really get the sunlight on this whole situation, people are going to want to undo Trump's presidency the same way that the racists of this country tried to use birtherism to undo Obama's presidency. We're going to have a situation where I think Congress is going to do anything they can to erase him, and part of that is putting him in jail and punishing him. They do not want Donald Trump even to be remembered as a former U.S. president. That's how bad this is going to be. And by the way, if we find out that the election really was changed by the foreign government working with him, I don't know for sure that they wouldn't do that.
That's treason.
It is
I don't-
treason.
I
That
don't
is
think
treason.
that they like well, so I don't feel like they are going to go through that level just for the mere fact that they don't want to admit that it happened. And if they say that Russia affected our election and that Trump was just a puppet for Putin, that they have to admit that they were susceptible of this the entire time. And I don't think that they want to. I think that they would rather say Manafort was a bad egg, Flynn was a bad egg,
Yeah.
Jared was a bad egg, but Trump had nothing to do with it. Kind of the same way
Fox
that
News will
Trump
take that road.
that Trump is like, Trump's lawyers now saying that he had nothing to do with paying off Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, and he had nothing.
I-
He had nothing to
that
do
was-
with
no
sending.
idea.
That's
Yeah.
how you beat. That's how you beat him. That's how you beat a bully. I've dealt with bullies. In order to beat them, you have to find their weakness and exploit it. and push them to the edge.
By the way, speaking
Literally to the edge of like pushing them to outside, like literally driving them to kill themselves. You have to do that with a bully.
let's all get together and make bullying kill itself.
Yeah, but like that's the way to beat a bully.
Yeah.
You don't talk to them, you don't reason with them. You call them a fucking loser and you tell them to go kill themselves.
Well,
and then you beat the
we've
shit
been
out of
trying
them.
to do that with
Wow.
Trump, and he hasn't done
Yeah.
it yet. Now, let's talk about the Stormy thing.
sorry.
You know how Stormy was threatened. Stormy
Right.
said a man came up to her and gave a sort of very
Creepy.
a really hacky
It's
mob.
like,
Ew,
oh.
threats.
I wouldn't want anything to happen
happened
to
to
her
you.
mommy.
It's like, oh, it's a beautiful kid you got there.
Creepy.
By the way, it sounds so
This
much
is
like
why
Michael.
women need guns, so that way they could just blow his fucking brains
It sounds
out
so much like
on
okay.
the side of the fucking road.
Okay, stop drinking, Chris. You've had enough.
I'm not done drinking yet, Dave.
Blackout.
When this
There's
guy,
one more beer.
so yeah, well, the thing about Stormy Daniels being threatened, everyone said, there was a threat against her, and people heard it, and they thought whatever. But then we found out the threat was from 2011, and the threat was before she became public about it. So it's very hard to imagine that someone unaffiliated.
2011.
It was in 2011
Yeah, that's when it was.
when
yeah.
she
He
got
wasn't
this
even
threat.
running.
He wasn't running.
He's a big guy,
They
though.
were just threatening her to not go public with the fact that he cheated on his wife with
Yeah.
her because she was going to sell the story to In Touch magazine for $15,000, which means there's really no one outside of Trump's orbit.
15 grand?
Yeah, well, she's a porn
That
star.
low?
They get paid nothing.
They get paid.
No, porn stars get paid like shit these days. It's terrible.
Oh my god.
It's honest.
Yeah.
It's
They
honestly
get
a
paid
travesty.
in tits.
It's a
Get
travesty.
my fucking paycheck and I give it to a porn star, and I'll trade that. I will get their
Hey,
paycheck.
if you wanted to do porn, you probably could.
Yeah,
So let's
totally.
not act like you're being blacklisted
There are
from this
people who would
industry.
pay for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a thing in this world called specialty porn, Chris, that you could be a big star of. Now, I don't know what your dick looks like.
It looks like a mangled mess.
Ew. Mango Mess. That's your porn name.
Yeah, that means you could definitely be huge in
MM
porn.
in the house.
If
Yo,
your
yo,
dick,
yo.
trust me,
No,
Chris,
it can't be because my.
if your
it would
dick
be
has
the-
if your dick has like a toenail on it, you could be the most famous porn star in the
Totally.
world.
Wait a minute. But your porn name is supposed to be your first name and the street name that you lived
No,
on.
you can
no.
make it whatever you want.
It's your first pet's name and the street name you lived on.
So I
That's
would be
why
Coco Kennedy.
that's
works
a
too.
great
That's actually
porn name.
very political.
That's
as
why
well.
my name would be Taffy Nautilus, which is a pretty
Wow.
great porn name.
I'm
thought it was-
Tommy Yonkers.
But wait, wouldn't it be?
These are great names.
Tommy Yonkers.
Okay, wait, Maddie. Maddie.
What's the formula?
What's
again?
your porn name,
first,
Maddie?
Your first pet,
Okay.
and then the first street you lived on,
First street.
or your favorite street. you lived on.
Oh, it's boring. It's just suburban Belle Woodbury.
Your name is Belle
God
Woodbury.
damn
Yeah.
it, Maddie.
Yeah, that is a terrible porn name.
I know. That's
You-
why
Just,
I was
Belle
not meant for
Woodbury-
porn.
Belle Woodbury definitely sounds like a girl who did one movie.
Yeah.
It sounds like a girl who's like, this
Yeah.
isn't for me.
yeah.
This was just college. I
Yeah,
need to pay.
yeah.
Belle Woodbury.
Yeah.
That's actually when we
I
had
thought it
Caitlin
was-
Bailey on. If she did porn, that sounds like the name she would use because she just acts like someone who she's like our friend who's
Yeah, I know.
she was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
prostitute even though she talks like she's running for Congress.
Yeah.
Huh? No, but I thought your porn name was your first name and the street that you lived on.
No, not your first name because then it's your first name. It's
Right.
But it's a first name. There's a ton of
Do you think
Daves.
Stormy was born Stormy?
No, I know that.
Right.
I know.
right. No, yeah,
She
no,
was born being a
it's
twinkle
usually-
in her father's eye.
It's
Ew.
usually your first
Oh,
pet's name.
nice.
Even though that not a lot of masculine porn names from that.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
yours was Coco. I also had a Coco.
Oh.
My mom named a
You
pet. My mom, when I was 6 years old, my mom bought a toy poodle, named it Coco, put a rhinestone collar on it, and said, "David, I bought you a dog."
Oh,
And
I
I
had a German Shepherd
I was
who
really
ripped people's throats that whenever you were out of our property.
yeah. I also had a German Shepherd who did that and who killed, by the way, Coco, the poodle. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the
I
day.
was really rooting for Coco.
It was the day.
No.
So I got Coco when I was
German
6,
Shepherds are
Yeah.
crazy.
who I was tricked into loving because that's what you do when you get a dog. You love it,
Yeah.
even because I wasn't old enough to know that
but-
this toy poodle was not the appropriate. Coco is not an appropriate pet for a little boy.
Why is it not an appropriate pet for
because
a little boy? It's
it-
a poodle. It's a dog.
Because it was a toy poodle with a
man's
rhinestone
best
collar
friend.
named Coco.
but it wasn't a real
it
poodle.
just
Yes,
had
a toy poodle.
it had
It's
a
that's a
bad
kind of poodle.
costume.
A toy poodle is a
Oh.
very small poodle.
Oh, but damn it, that's a dog.
It's still a dog. It's man's
Yeah,
best
he
friend.
loves
Yes,
the
well,
dog.
it shouldn't
They
have
didn't
had,
want to be gay.
well, it shouldn't
okay?
have had the name.
But
it
poodles
should-
are smart, Maddie.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had a problem with the poodle, but if it's my dog, it shouldn't have a rhinestone collar and be named like Elizabeth Taylor. Just put it in her purse. The point is,
It wasn't Chanel.
so then we got a German Shepherd,
Well,
and
maybe
then
he's gay, Maddie.
and
Yeah,
then-
yeah, I think so. I'm thinking.
and then on the day of my bar mitzvah,
We'll call him David from now on. Go on.
this German Shepherd decapitated the poodle.
Holy shit.
Jesus.
Yeah.
The morning of
Yeah,
my bar
this was
mitzvah,
up.
and then
Woo.
my parents lied to me because I don't know if you know this. In Jewish families, they try to avoid all experiences of negative emotion altogether.
Uh,
It's just like I
That
found
sounds
out.
like a black family. I don't know what you're
Irish
talking
too.
about.
Irish as well.
Because
so I'm not sure.
I just found out Gary Shanley.
well, they
his-
never ignored that with me.
Gary
They just
Shanley's
told me
brother
straight
died
up.
when he was like
That's
10. So Gary Shanley's brother died when he was like 10, and then his parents didn't tell him. They just
Oh.
started.
Jesus Christ.
They wouldn't tell him. They were
What?
just they wouldn't like answer what was going on or where his brother was. They just
My
like they never
God.
gave him a chance. They didn't even tell him there was a funeral. They made him stay home because they
Holy
were like-
Whoa.
shit.
It's like how my mom didn't want me to see E.T. when I was a baby. It's like, well, you shouldn't experience things.
Yeah.
And so they didn't
Wait,
tell
but-
me for years until they just
Jesus.
then my parents forgot that they lied to me about how the dogs died,
Oh,
and then they would just
God.
mention it in front of me, and I'd be like,
Right.
What happened to that dog?
Totally.
oh, so they didn't run away from the kennel, and it was
This is a
That's all
problem.
families.
But
Yeah.
no,
My
this
grandpa
is
killed himself, and I didn't find out till like I was 17.
a
funny story about
I
that.
was like, oh, okay.
Oh God.
Actually,
Good to know.
I have a very funny story that goes along with that too. So my grandfather killed himself, which you guys
Hello?
know because
Yeah,
it's been
remember
mentioned
it.
in multiple roast battles.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So my grandfather committed a murder suicide.
Whoa.
With his second wife, who looked just like my grandmother. He got a second wife, looked just like his first wife, and then he eventually killed her and himself because he was a gun nut. He had like 50 guns. Now I'm just kidding. I'm not saying that's why, but doesn't look great when you're a crazy man with a bunch of guns who used to beat his wife. Which, by the way,
There it
now that we
is.
think
History
about
of
it,
violence.
we would have
Yeah.
we would have been able to take
Yeah.
it away if it was the better world.
Yeah,
here's-
but then back then it was like, well, of course he beats his wife.
but you said
Yeah.
no one knows your grandfather
That
killed
bitch
himself.
doesn't know how to make dinner.
So
Yeah.
my grand
You
so
overcooked my casserole.
Yeah.
So when I was facing Kim Congdon, she did a joke where she said Dave's grandfather killed himself and his wife in a move I like to call the self-cleaning oven.
Wow.
Good jo-
Holy shit.
It's a good joke. I mean, I still won, but
Yeah.
she and so then
We've
my
heard
mo-
the oven thing.
my
Yeah.
mom
You and me.
was at my mom and her husband, not my father, but her husband now, great guy, were at the show, and then my
Oh.
mom was like,
Oh, my God.
you know, I never actually told him how Grandpa died.
Oh my fucking God.
But here's the best part.
Whoa.
Here's the best. So
Jesus.
here's the best part. Apparently, and I really appreciate that he came to my roast battles.
Can I just say one thing? I love how we went from a toy poodle to a murder suicide
Yep.
that quickly.
Right,
Yep,
your
sorry.
parents
This
tell
is
you.
blame storming.
Right, just like Maddie's family didn't want to tell her that her grandfather killed himself.
Yeah.
My family, I found out my mom was like, I didn't know you knew that. And I'm like, you didn't know that I knew that he killed himself? And I'm like, how would you not know? And then I was like, wait, did you not tell anyone else? I was there when she found out. And she like woke me up, and then she was like, "Well, I don't think your brothers and sister know." And then I asked them, I was like, "Did you know about what Paul did?" And they were like, and my brother, by the way, at the time when this happened was like 2. No, I'm sorry, he was like 11 years old when this happened, and he wasn't told. Shortly after that, he goes, my brother's like, "Oh yeah, I know what happened with Grandpa, because one time I was visiting Dad at work." And I saw that he had a newspaper clipping up on the wall of his office.
Oh my
shit.
God.
Because that's how much my dad and him got along.
Insane.
And that's how they had to find out. See, that's the point I was making.
amazing.
That's the point I was making with my family. Is like, you see what happens when you try to protect people from the truth instead of them finding out about death in a good, normal way that normal people could process. They find out by happenstance when their dad is like, "Oh, you didn't know, huh?" to a 13-year-old boy
my.
about his grandfather's death. Now, granted, they didn't have a relationship with him like I did because he left the family when I
Right.
was like 12.
Right.
So they didn't know him the way I knew him,
Right.
which was a lot more. But still, it's just the fact like when our pets would die, they would
Yeah.
lie. And then an old
Totally.
person dies,
Yeah.
they have to lie about it.
my
It's
God.
pathetic. And I mean, like, I don't know if you want to talk
That's
about like
so
how you
funny.
eventually found out.
Someone asked, how did your, I think it was like a doctor's appointment or something like that. And someone was like, and how did, I was maybe like 13 or something. It was like one of those like last like appointments that your parents are still in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bordering 11 to 13. And the doctor was like, and how did their paternal grandfather go? And my mom was like, self-mutilation. And in my head at the time, I was like, I got to find out what that means.
He was a cutter?
Yeah.
Because that's not even how you say
Wait,
Yeah.
suicide.
Shot himself or he hung himself?
No, he even shot himself.
He
Because
shot
yeah,
himself?
'cause
Yeah.
I guess she somehow thought self-mutilation was
Yeah.
a euphemism.
Well, the doctor was like, oh, okay.
Right?
Like, it's
Yeah.
like that's
Because it
that's a
sounds
good-
like your
Oh.
grandfather was just really emo and
I
had to cut to
know.
let the
Like,
pain
I
out.
cut myself
Right.
to make myself feel alive.
Right, yeah.
Put on some emo music.
But then it wasn't until like years later that I got the full story and was like, "Oh shit!" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're not gonna ask after that and be like, "Mom, what were you talking about?" You know?
Right, like you have
She
no
could
idea.
have, because she
I
also,
would.
for the purpose of what he was asking, she could have just said accident. All he wanted
Oh,
to know was what
yeah, true.
disease he died of.
Yes.
Right.
She
didn't
could have said
have-
heart attack. No one would give a fuck.
Well, heart
Right,
attack would have been
exactly.
bad because then he would have, like, I guess, knew that your heart as a 13-year-old girl was
Car
in trouble.
accident.
They don't care.
Car accident,
So-
bus accident.
But actually, when I
Yeah.
used to work at a psychic hotline, which, by the way,
Psychic hotline.
all psychics are wrong. They're all fake.
Duh.
They just sometimes think they're real. I would test the psychics by asking them how my grandfather died.
Ooh, nice.
But that's the thing, they hate it when you ask them an open-ended question. They only want yes or no's because that's easier to lie about. And it was just really funny just listening to, like, because basically I worked at a psychic hotline, and it was really sad for me because I could tell these people were being, like, manipulated and lied to, and usually it's their fear of the future. And I would have people be like, well, I've been talking to this one for a while, and I'm just trying to figure out if they're real or not. And I'm like, figure out if they're real? I just asked the guy, how did my grandfather how did my grandfather die? And their answer was, every single one has a different answer, but they're all equally confident about it. They're all like, yes, I see it now. He had a blood problem. What didn't he? Yes,
Yeah.
he had this problem.
Oh,
and it's,
God.
but like it was even better than
Did
that.
anyone ever get it right?
Yeah, one person said he died from bleeding in his head, which could be a stroke. It could be a million different things, including shooting yourself. So that's sort of what's the the trick of it. They're just trying to be as vague as possible.
Right.
What I would usually do is I would call and be like, "Hey, my name's Gary. I work in a coal mine. I have 3 kids. Can you tell me what's going to happen with my sister's cancer?" And they would just be like, yes, I see your sister right now. She's dealing with it. I see how you're like, no matter what you
Bullshit.
say,
Oh, for sure.
they never know you're lying.
yeah, but you
Right.
believe them.
And the one guy who figured out I was lying just remembered me because I was his fucking supervisor.
Some people get addicted to psychic advice.
Well, the thing about the
Yeah.
industry that was so disgusting to me was that the profit is entirely based on the addicts.
Mm-hmm.
People who just used it
For sure.
recreationally, we were losing money
Mm-hmm.
on them. But the people who used it every day and emptying their life savings,
Hundreds of
they're the
thousands.
ones where the money was coming
Yeah.
from.
Jesus
And we
Christ.
sometimes when we were bored, we would go through how much money people were spending, and it was fucking sad. We were like, wow, this person spent 80 grand in the last 2 years.
Totally.
Damn.
And it's like, unless this is like some wealthy woman, which I'm sure they're not, we are destroying lives. And I quit that job as soon as like I was
Yeah.
able to line up another job
Yeah,
because it was just so morally wrong.
totally.
The way, and I went to the job not realizing how evil. I was open minded to
Yeah.
it, and then when I was there, I was like, "Oh, these people are just
Yeah.
criminals." Even though they all pretended it was real, the psychics all acted like they meant it. I was like, whether you're lying or you're just crazy, either way, what we're doing is wrong.
Jesus, man.
Because it's all about just manipulating your fear of the future.
Well, that's.
So-
Oh, go ahead.
We are gonna have to wrap it up fairly shortly, but
about-
before we go, a little thing I don't know. Did you guys ever watch Smallville?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh my god. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So-
go on.
So now, are you guys aware that the ladies of Smallville were involved in like a violent like sex cult? Allegedly.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
until
this
This
is
is
today.
Superman show.
Yeah. This just.
Yeah.
I
kinda-
know. I heard about it. I know that. I heard about it
you
today.
know about Superman?
Yeah, can you believe
Kristen
it?
Crook and the blonde one who looked just like Kristen Bell.
Exactly. So like allegedly, Lana, which was Kristen Crook, she started the cult first. And she enrolled the blonde one, and the blonde one stayed in and like became the accomplice allegedly of like the leader of the cult. and they were branding like women like with like the cult leader and her initials.
There was a Law and Order episode about this, wasn't there?
I believe there
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Another
And-
blow to the DC cinematic universe.
Yes.
Exactly.
As if they haven't gone through enough already.
I know. This is
If you
worse.
didn't
First
go
suicide-
low enough.
I mean, obviously this is
First
not.
Justice League, now this?
I don't consider this story as bad for them as Jared Leto's Joker, but it's close.
Oh, God. Jared Leto's Joker was so lazy.
That was the single worst comic book character rendition.
Was he
of all
also in
time.
a sex cult?
No, he was just
He
an
acted like it.
asshole.
Well,
he was just a real asshole that
He was a white rapper. He
I
was
don't-
acting like
yes.
it was like the
He
director
was like
of the movie.
Snow.
It was like the director
It
of
was
the movie.
terrible. It was really bad.
It was like the director of the movie was like, yeah, man, I'm going to figure out how to make the perfect Joker. And then started just looking on websites to be like, what's like a cool watch the Joker would have?
No. The worst part of it was the fact that like
Tattoos.
no, besides the tattoos, it was like there was a scene in Suicide Squad where he offered to give Harley Quinn like to a guy.
Yeah.
and then he
that's-
shot him when he refused.
No, he shot him for he shot him for acknowledging she was hot.
No, he shot him when he refused.
But I think the game there was that he was going to shoot him either way, and it was like the point is he was acting like a
scene was
really
terrible.
badly written. He was acting like a really badly written criminal in a crime movie.
He's supposed
where he's
to
like,
love-
"Oh, you think my girl is hot, huh? Well, I'm gonna shoot you now because you looked at my girl."
You know
It's like
what-
he's the fucking Joker. He doesn't use his dick.
Yeah, but you know what the sad part is that character, I love the Joker. He's just chaos. That's
Yeah.
all he is. And they reduced him to like a whiny little school brat.
Yeah, no, they
for the
made him.
Suicide Squad.
They made him a character that was unrecognizable as that character. I mean, the tattoo. They made him a vain, like shallow, just thug.
But
it was
they
terrible.
made him. They also made him like a needy little bitch. He's like
Yeah.
he doesn't care about Harley Quinn.
Yeah, that's right.
He's
he doesn't.
ditched her 1,000
He
times.
doesn't care about her. That's why she loves him so much, because she's broken, and you should only like a man who treats you well.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm making eye contact with Maddie right now. She knows why.
Wait, do you know who I'm banging or no?
No.
Oh.
I just assume.
Oh, yeah, it's a pattern.
I think it's really funny that you immediately thought I must know something about your relationship right now, because I just
I was
assumed
like,
you like
holy
men
shit,
who
he told
who
you.
withhold affection.
No, man, I keep that between us.
So yeah, so there's
Yeah.
a cult. The Smallville girls had a cult, which, by the way, it's not like they did anything after. I thought Kristen Crook would have become a star, and
Right,
she did
because she
nothing
like
afterwards.
seems like she was like a
no.
rising star, but I guess she
Yeah.
got caught up in the cult and like trying to lure people into the cult. And then the other one, the poor woman's Kristen Bell,
Allison. Is that her name?
the Allison, yeah. So like she stayed in it, and she was also like recruiting people into it. And apparently, at the end of it, they like she and the cult leader allegedly were branding their initials into the area right above people's vajayjays. So just so they
Yes.
knew,
Yeah.
Initials.
yeah.
But here's the thing about cults.
Why would you want something that they could tell was
No,
you?
But cults
Yeah.
cults are like, I used to read a lot about like the Jonestown Massacre because I was like obsessed with it when I was like a teenager. I was like, why did these many people die? I watched all the documentaries on it. It's literally when you're building a cult, like the first thing is like power. You get all this like the star notoriety probably got him, and then it was like, ooh, I can get him to give me all of his life savings. Oh, I can get him to give me his car. Oh, I can get him to give me his house. And you're just taking everything, taking. And then you realize, like, there's going to be a point where someone's going to question a lot of this shit. But that's when they start, like, doubling down. Like, no, I will give you X, Y, and Z.
It's the exact
And
same. Sorry.
It's like, but with the Jonestown Massacre, what ended up happening was a bunch of people were living there, and their families were like, dude, we need you to come home. And the senator was brought in, and then they killed the senator with a shotgun.
Yeah, the first senator to be killed in the line of his duty. Yeah,
In Paraguay. No, in Central
South-
America. In
yeah,
Central
South America,
America. And they ended up being like, "Oh, we're fucked. So we'll just kill everyone.
Just kill ourselves." And they didn't even have to kill the senator,
No,
by the way. The
they
senator
didn't.
was going to let them go free.
Yes.
but they were
Right.
just so paranoid because they're idiots
Here's
about
the
it.
thing. Here's the thing. It was on. They were recording, so they got it on tape. They actually got the execution on tape, and the History Channel aired it, and I watched it because I'm a psycho. But it was like, oh my god. Here's the thing, though. They didn't like the story that the press gave was like they injected all these people with cyanide. They didn't.
No, they drank it.
Half of them drank it. The other half had to be chased in the wilderness.
Yeah,
and
that's
shot,
true. A lot of them
like
were killed.
fucking
They were
and
forced,
shot in
yeah.
the back or stabbed to death. And the only ones that survived were like this, like 80-year-old woman or 70-year-old woman who hid under a bed and waited for all this shit to go down.
You know the worst
It's
thing about
insane.
the worst thing about the Jonestown massacre to me, honestly the saddest part is the fact that to this day everyone uses the term drinking the Kool-Aid, and it was not Kool-Aid. It was Flavor Aid. It was the generic kind.
Yes.
And we've been blaming Kool-Aid for all these
Wow.
years.
And not only that, I still remember the code to do the
Ridiculous
mass. I
branding.
still remember the code name,
senseless.
I know.
which is White Knight. White Knight was the code name
Yeah,
to start this execution.
Oh.
Yeah, and then what they did, by the way, was they had mock executions where everyone would have to drink a poison that wasn't poison, and then when it was over, they'd be like, "Don't worry, it wasn't poison," because that gets it.
Yeah.
easy. They do the same
Oh.
thing with executing prisoners and terrorists.
Crazy.
They do a lot of almost doing it and make you think is that way. You're like, "Oh well, I'll do it because I guess it's going to be fake again," and then it's not.